I don't think I've ever drunk champagne before breakfast before. With breakfast on several occasions. But never before.
Well, I've got a wonderful idea.
I'm so nervous to do this in front of you. Hello, and welcome back to the Movies for Breakfast podcast. I'm your host, Christy, and today, for the first time ever, I'm joined by a special guest. My sister, spiritually deep down. I realize when I say that, people will think I'm serious because we look pretty similar. My sister, spiritually, Nickie DeMacos.
I'm just some guy. Not famous.
Well, that's not true. oh, like it's not a famous person.
Yeah, I feel like usually people have hosts are like, oh, what do they do?
Oh yeah, I'm like, you guys
what
are
have they
not
been
going to
in?
believe the guests
Guess
that I have on
have.
today. You guys are going to go crazy when you see who's on today. Yeah.
Just some guy. But you know what? I think that's important because...
I forgot to say, normally I say right away what movie we're talking about. So today we're talking about the Springsteen biopic, which I used to always say is biopic, like myopic. I didn't know. Deliver Me From Nowhere. We're going to do what I always do, which is a spoiler-free rating and review.
I like that. Okay.
Ahead of time, and then we'll give a spoiler warning, and then we'll go into like a plot synopsis, a detailed plot synopsis, and we'll discuss and analyze as we go through that.
What would spoilers count as in this movie?
Yeah, it's hard to say spoilers because it is a biopic.
I guess I won't go into like... I don't know.
We'll get into like the chronological, like going through the plot synopsis.
Yeah.
And I'll like flag when we start that.
Vividly.
Basically, I just want to start us off with like an overview of our opinions.
Yeah.
And I brought on Nickie specifically because I consider her a subject matter expert in Bruce Springsteen. And I'm sure she's not going to want to call herself an expert, but would you like to kind of like just introduce yourself and attest to your Springsteen
subject matter expertness?
Yeah.
I think I don't want to attest to that because I'm afraid of like
people are going to
reply guys coming.
Yeah,
for me.
they're going to come.
Well, I have this vivid memory of like when we were at a bar one time, our friend Julia was there. There was a jukebox and someone kept playing Springsteen songs over and over and over again. We were jamming out at the table. Like, duh, like you can't hear like his songs and just not jam out. Some guy walks by us and was like, hey, like, are you guys the ones playing the Springsteen songs? And we're like, no, but like having a good time because Springsteen. And Julia was like, no, that's not us, but she's a huge Springsteen fan.
That's so Julia.
Yeah, she was like, you're the Springsteen fan. Before I could say a word, this guy goes to me, oh yeah, like you're a Springsteen fan? I'm the biggest Springsteen fan. Like my favorite song is Thunder Road. Walks away. Did I tell you that story?
No.
Insane.
I mean, it's typical of like the random like bid for connection. Like, hey, do you like this artist? Like, I like this artist.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I really like this artist.
I was excited.
Yeah, I like him more. Disappear.
Yeah, disappear. Also, Thunder Road, that's just like everyone's favorite song. It wasn't original.
Oh, sorry, I didn't pick up on that because I'm not.
I was providing that. I was like, that's like saying like,
oh, I love Arctic Monkeys. My favorite song is Do I Want to Know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, it's not the number one song, but it's like the number three.
It's like ordering the second least expensive wine on a wine menu.
Yes.
Everyone knows
it's like
what you're doing.
He's like, I have taste, but it's like everyone fucking knows Thunder Road. Like everyone knows. So that is what...
This is why the male loneliness epidemic is not real.
There are just like diehard Springsteen fans. And so I was indoctrinated, I would say, because my parents are big Springsteen fans, as many kids my age are. I just like grew up like thinking as a kid, if someone was like on the radio, I'd be like, is this Bruce Springsteen? And they'd be like, no, it's like someone, like I would just
like music was either Bruce Springsteen or not
Bruce Springsteen. I don't know, but it sounds like, I think when I talk about the way my parents love Bruce Springsteen on the outset, it sounds cultish, which is fair because like they've gone over to 100 concerts, like for sure. They've traveled internationally to see him. Like that's like not uncommon. That's not uncommon for Bruce Springsteen's fan base. For them, I have a lot, I mean, not only because they're my parents, but I have a lot of understanding because they are the people that he writes about. Like they grew up in like rural New York. They didn't come from a lot. The classic story, like they moved out together, like they ran away together, like got married young, moved to New York City, like made a life for themselves. Now they have kids. And I think my dad, he's not gonna like me saying this, I saw him cry during the movie. And I know he cried during the movie because he just resonated with that story that Bruce is telling so much. His fan base, I think, is so tight because of like how, he means a lot to people.
A shared experience.
Yeah.
He's the voice of a generation.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that.
And your parents like both loved him together. Like he has like been part of their relationship basically.
Yeah.
They invited him to their wedding.
They invited him
if
to
I can say.
Yes. We saw this movie together and I wanted Christy to be there. So we saw it together with my parents and like family. Literally my brother and sister were there too. like we took pictures of my parents in front of like
we went to like dinner first. We pre-gamed a little bit. Then we went to the movie theater. Actually, we pre-gamed kind of a lot because myself, yourself, and your mother did walk like 2 blocks past the movie theater and then have to turn around. And everyone else was like, "Where'd you guys go?"
Gavin.
We were just gabbing, but it was the best time ever.
My dad didn't drink. He was like, I need to.
He was not about to.
He had to have his mental
compromise his
faculties
mental
with
state.
them. Like, I need to watch this movie completely sober. I need to be in it, and that's like
he didn't drink at the movie theater either. Diet Coke.
No, Diet Coke
and popcorn.
I went out and got beer. Like I
know. By the way, I saw that. I was like drunk from my Negroni, and I like come back to the movie theater from the bathroom, and everyone has beer. The theater we were in was huge, probably the biggest movie theater I've ever sat in.
I think this is a movie that you see at home. There's no song that you need to be seeing IMAX.
In IMAX? Yeah. We were also like pretty close up in IMAX, so I was just like completely swimming in Bruce Springsteen for 2 hours or however long it was. But I didn't mind it. I personally really like IMAX.
It was really cool, yeah.
That was our movie theater experience. I would say we had a great time with the whole thing. We had a great time watching it. Or at least let me just speak for myself. I didn't leave going, what a waste of time, that was crap. I left going, well, first of all, I left in tears, so I definitely was emotionally affected, but I was kind of like, my expectations going into this movie were not incredibly high or incredibly strict, just because I think like a musician biopic is its own genre in a way, and it's not the most, I don't know, it's not the most like high art genre. Like it is what it is. And to me, what I want out of a music biopic, especially if it's an artist I don't know or like I wasn't included in that like generational experience, I want to like feel something emotionally and connect to the subject, the artist, and I want to then kind of like feel included in pop culture and feel like I know that generation of American culture based on the musician story. Didn't we go to see the Bob Dylan one together with Timothy Chalamet?
We did.
And Elle Fanning? Yeah. And I actually really liked that one. I thought that was the better of this like kind of genre.
I like that. A lot of people are comparing the two. I think mostly because this was like the most recent one. But I think they share, I mean, they're similar in that they focus on a specific time in their life that was a big deal.
And like a shift in their musical releases too. And they're both alive, which is interesting. And I think Bob Dylan gave that movie his blessing as well. And we were like laughing about that because he comes off as such a prick.
No, he just gave it his blessing as Timothy Chalamet looked cool riding a motorcycle.
That's what I think.
Like, that's really it.
I think it like says everything you need to know about him, that he was like, yeah, that's me. He's just like an absolute menace.
But Bruce Springsteen also chose like Jeremy. I don't know if he chose him or gave his blessing, but he wanted him to be. I mean, they don't look exactly alike. They just like don't.
I kind of don't care.
No, I don't care. He got the S. Bruce said he
did the mannerisms.
Jeremy Allen knows how to play like an undiagnosed depressed man really well. And I think that that's what people see. I think for the context of the movie, it's good and that's fine. He did it really well.
I gave this movie 3 stars. To me, it did what it was supposed to do as like a biopic. And because I did cry through basically all of Act 3, I care a lot about like the emotional connection I have to movies, and which is very subjective, which is just like how you feel in the moment. And I did connect to this one. And I had such a great time the whole experience seeing it. 3 stars. Would I watch it again? Probably not. I didn't think it was like fun to watch. Yeah. But I'm not a Bruce Springsteen fan. Not that I don't like Bruce Springsteen. I just wasn't brought up with him. And so I think my like expectations and my standards are pretty low for what this was supposed to be. And I am very much like the average Joe general audience member. And so that's like what I'm bringing to this. My perspective is just like someone who like knows a lot about movies and cares about movies. Nickie is coming to it from a very different place as like a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, very knowledgeable about Bruce, very knowledgeable and connected to like the fandom of Bruce and like what he means to people and what they would expect out of this movie. And then also you have read the book that this movie is based on. Yeah. So you have a lot more like expectations going into it for all of those reasons. And also you can point out for us where you think it went wrong more.
Yeah. I've been reading some of the reviews and I understand that some of them aren't great. I agree. I give it a 3 out of 5. This is all to say, give it a 3 out of 5. I think it should have been, I told you that I think it should have been a documentary.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing you said.
I think it should. It was just the book was. I just like ripped through the book. It was so good.
Is the book a memoir or did somebody else write it?
I brought it to show it.
Thank you.
The writer he's just a very talented writer.
He's like a music journalist.
So he I love the way the book opens. In like an ideal world, I almost wish the movie opened like this, but he's a musician and the book opens by like him playing with his band. And I also love the book cover. Like on the Nebraska album, you don't see Bruce at all. You just see a landscape of, I don't remember the photographer's name, but that was out of all the departures of this album, besides like the sound, this was the first album his face wasn't on it. That was unconventional at the time. Like everyone's face was on their albums. Like you put yourself out there. It was a time of like, and the movie kind of got at this, like MTV was that started then.
Yeah.
The movie, like you see him flipping through channels and MTV is like there for a second. And that I was like, I feel like they did this thing throughout the whole movie in terms of the influences of the album. They just like dropped it in there and didn't explain it.
If you didn't see the movie, it centers around the period of time when Bruce creates the album Nebraska.
Yeah.
Which was a departure artistically and everything. And it was like kind of more acoustic and folksy than his like rock albums before.
Yeah. What the author argues is that like this departure was one of the biggest like 180s in pop music history, which I think is a compelling argument, and I agree. And I think that movie just did not show that at all. There was one part of his childhood and depression and his internal
like
struggles,
wound.
And that's what led into the making of the album.
Yeah.
But the movie just focused on like that one theme, and that's where I think when you get to like a mass movie like this where you're trying to appeal to a bunch of different audiences, like I just feel like they watered down a lot.
Yeah.
And they focused on the depression so much, they just didn't focus on the making the album.
Because it was I felt that it was very narrow and very kind of like intimate on his personal life and feelings, which is great and everything. But like I said, part of what I want out of these musician biopics is to feel included in like the cultural story and to understand how people were talking about and thinking about it at the time. And so like the moment in Bohemian Rhapsody when they do like the AIDS concert, and it's just like fucking huge and people go crazy, that is like actually a moment in history that I wanted to like feel and get. And in this movie, I did not at all feel or understand how the public was reacting to his music.
That is exactly what I wanted to see. Like I felt like when they finally released Nebraska, like at the end when you're like, oh my God, he's gonna release it.
And then it's fucking
like,
over.
And then it's over and you're like, well, how did this land? They don't show the outcome of Nebraska. That's not a spoiler. They just don't show like the outcome of it.
Because the way that it was built up so much that when he would explain the concept of the album or show people the demo, everyone was like, what? Yeah. This is crazy. But then if you don't show us like his audience reception to it, all of that has built up to nothing. I
was curious to hear your perspective because to me, Nebraska is considered one of his best albums.
Yeah.
That is so amazing because this album he wasn't making it thinking he was making an album. He was just like, all he was doing was just putting out these tapes, recording these tapes on this like home recording system. Mm-hmm. And that's the other impact of Nebraska. This like launched a whole home recording revolution. Like I would not know that. You couldn't trace it back to him, but like you could trace it back to him. And this isn't my original thought. Like the author talks about this because Bruce had this system that he could just put in his house. Yeah. He recorded these tapes. He released Nebraska. Bands actually in the 90s, like Pavement, Guided by Voices, all of these like independent bands saw Nebraska and thought like I could do that too. And that's why I think it would have been a great documentary because you could say that in a documentary.
This movie spent way too long on one idea about him that we got basically immediately, and that was like his childhood trauma. It felt like what an 18-year-old boy realizes one night smoking weed with his girlfriend and being like,
bong idea.
My dad really hurt my feelings. And it's like important and relevant and clearly like affected him deeply, but it's not like there's not enough going on with that to be the entire thesis of the movie alone. Like it's not so much why did he write it. We got that pretty quickly. I want to know why it mattered and like how it affected music culture.
I do think that the why he wrote it is really important, and I think they were really focused on that. They just did it in such like a hitting your head like what's like the saying, they're just like
on the nose,
it's like
ham-fisted, hitting you over the head with
like
it,
the number
feeding
of
a fed
flashbacks
horse.
This album wasn't just born out of his childhood trauma. There were
Nothing is.
No, exactly. It was just also like, if they wanted to focus on the family thing, they could have also focused, like, he was living with his grandparents for a point of his life. That was a huge part of the book, was like the impact of living with his grandparents and not with his parents. Like, that was a part of the book. But also a huge part we get a glimpse at was after the river tour, when he went back to his hometown. Well, he was from Freehold, but he lived in this place, Cold Snack. He felt like he couldn't connect with the people. He was writing songs about these people he no longer felt a relationship to. One part in the book that I think would have made a really cool scene in the movie. He went to the movies, some guy pulled him aside and was like, I'm a huge fan. It was him and his sister. The fan was like, hey, can you sit with us at the movie? And he was like, yeah, whatever. So we sat in between the fan and the sister. The fan offered to drive him home. And I think in today's world, no one would do that. He was pretty famous then. But he said yes. The fan drove him home. And like, he's talked to him this was during...
it didn't turn into... I was waiting for you to say that he was a stalker.
Didn't turn into anything. He felt so disconnected from the people he was writing about, from his hometown, from his self. And he just like wanted to learn about these people again. I thought that would have made such an intimate scene in the movie and gives you an understanding where he has, besides just like flashbacks over flashback over. It wasn't just about his dad. It was so much more than that.
All right, so we've given some of our just like overall reactions, thoughts, and opinions. So you get the vibe of how we felt about this movie. But now I'm going to keep us guided by moving through kind of the synopsis.
I like that because that's...
And then as we go through it, we'll like weave in more of our thoughts.
Yeah.
The overall scope of the movie is the period of time during which Bruce wrote the album Nebraska, after he finished a huge sold-out tour and had like a lot of pressure on him to put out his next release. From like the fans, from the label, from his manager by proxy of the label. It focuses a lot on his relationship with his manager, John Landau, and about his romantic relationships during that time, and basically spends the other half of the movie in flashbacks or discussing in the present day his relationship with his parents, especially his dad. Starts in 1981. He is going to live in a house in Cold Snack, New Jersey, near where he grew up in New Jersey, but it's like a very nice mid-century modern bachelor pad. Yeah,
I really liked it.
It was really cute.
It was
Me too.
really cool. It was really
it's like a sunken living room with a record player.
Okay,
really cool. Come on, Bruce. It's very much like an artist retreat kind of thing. And his manager, John, played by
Jeremy Strong.
Yes.
Love him.
So his manager, John, makes some comment about like, I still think you should reconsider possibly living in the city where like the label is headquartered, and I think where John lives. But Bruce kind of insists, he said something like, I don't even know who I am in the city. Like he needs to go back to his roots. No, I know. There was so many like eye-rolling lines.
Made me so, like, you know that one scene where he was like, I got a car and I felt like a stranger in my own city driving a nice car.
That
like,
was nothingness. That was a nothing burger.
The car he was like, the guy was like, I know who you are. And he was like, that makes one of us.
I rolled my eyes so hard. It's a lot of corny one-liners, and like there's an allowance for that, but like I think it exceeded its allowance.
You can giggle a little bit.
It was a bit egregious.
You can giggle. Yeah.
His friend drives him out to that house. He has nothing but his tight little slutty jeans and like 2 leather duffel bags with him. He goes and buys the car, as you say. Apparently it's the first time he ever bought a car.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what car it was, but it was like a really nice luxury.
It was nice.
Black car. People are gonna hate me for saying that. I definitely should know what it is, but it's okay. And like it's kind of a regular town. Like his house that he's renting is really, really nice and pretty and fancy, but it's not like one of those places that only celebrities live.
Yeah.
He is like spending his time at the Stone Pony, which is a venue in this town, and like a lot of just like regular local bands come through and play at that venue, and he'll go and show up unannounced. And I actually really liked the scenes in the Stone Pony.
I love those scenes.
It looked like such a good time. All of the girls were just like sweaty, dancing, like, not a phone in sight. Not a fucking iPhone in sight. Like, he's pretty famous at this point. Like, people would go thinking, okay, maybe Bruce will show up tonight.
Yeah.
And if he showed up, people went crazy, but it's not like when Lorde shows up at Washington Square Park. And it's a fucking disaster because within 2 minutes, it's like on every phone in the city.
That was like part of his mythology that I don't think that our generation like quite understands, and which I was like, really, I don't think the movie could convey it well. Maybe it could, but I think it didn't. The author of the book, Warren Zanes, like he was in a band, he performed with his band. He opens by saying like, Bruce came one time, performed with us, and Bruce, like, he was one of the pop musicians that, like, indie musicians, like, gave it pass almost, like, because he's Bruce. Like, he just is there for the love of the game.
People find him legit.
Yeah, he's there for the love of the game. And I love the Stone Pony scene.
Jeremy Allen White as Bruce in those scenes is so physically, like, active. Like, the way that he's, like, moving his body and sweating and screaming, and his, like, the way he, like, moves his mouth around the microphone is, like,
have you ever seen
weird.
like young videos of Bruce Springsteen?
No.
I was gonna send them to you. He's known to perform now for like 3 hours. He was just all over stage, just all over sweating.
Yeah.
Like electric. So like
he's a performer
for that. He's a performer.
And I feel like that's something very important in pop music too, is like you actually can't just be a recluse putting out good, I mean you can, but like I love someone who like has this, like you say, mythology of like, oh, but you have to see them live.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny you say that because at the time, I think that Nebraska is a little bit of a punk album. People think of it's folk, thank you, or like Heartland rock or something like that. I think it's a little punk for a lot of reasons. Punk in that like he just went against the grain. I think he has a punk edge to him. The River is an album. This is the before Nebraska, and he talks about this in the book, that he was recording that at a time when like recording was more important than touring. And I mean, The River was great in production, but like he just gave it his all in his performances, and that's what really like made him different than other people, is because he just cared more about his onstage performance than his
I think just in terms of like the business of music, touring is so important, because like how many people just bring a friend or a boyfriend to a show, and like I would go see any artist that my friend liked. I don't have to know who they are. And if you go to a show not knowing the artist, you see an incredible performance and you love their music, you're a fan for life. Not everyone at your concert is a fan already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think about that like show we just went to at like Sultan Room like
J.W. Francis
ago,
and he was freaking
so
adorable.
And after that I was like, that was the best. Like I didn't know his music, saw him, had a best time because he was such a good performer. And that's you're gonna go through the plot, but
that's okay, go ahead.
They're essentially in the plot, there just wasn't a lot of performance.
No, that's why those Stone Pony scenes were so great.
Yeah.
And I like definitely craved to see more of it.
And I get it. Look, Nebraska he recorded it in his bedroom. One of the coolest things about the album is what you're listening to in Spotify Apple Music. That is the tapes from his bedroom. But at the end of the day, when you're seeing a biopic, whatever the subject of the movie, you just want some jams. I understand this is the most depressing album, but his next album, Born in the USA, would not have happened without Nebraska, which I don't think they really made clear.
I only knew because you told me that.
Like how insane is that? You remember that one scene where he just wrote like double album ?
Yeah.
No one knows what that means.
No. We could have had an epilogue.
Yes.
5 years later or whatever, and he's touring and he's performing songs from Born in the USA. And he says a little thing on stage about like, not a lot of people know this, but I actually wrote these songs at a time when I was in, there's so many ways that we could have.
There were so many ways.
I wanted a moment of sitting in the theater feeling hype as fuck and just being like, this is a Bruce concert. And we don't get that.
He did perform Born in the USA. And when that happened, I was like, yeah, this is great. That's all you get. They give you one crumb.
Am I dumb? I don't remember him performing.
It was the scene where he was like performing in front of the musician, and it was like,
yeah. In the studio.
Yeah, in the studio. Sorry, in the studio. This movie is about the making of Nebraska. After I watch it, I feel like this movie is about Bruce Springsteen's depression. We get 1% of the making of Nebraska.
You know what I think? Now that we're talking about it, I realize I just think it wasn't for us. Like I think we are two young women.
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Can I say with depression? It's not our first rodeo.
I know.
Like, I think we understand depression. We understand, like, the basics of, like, mental health in a way where this movie was kind of like, who are you talking to? Like, you're not talking to me. And it's because it's not really for us. It's for, like, Bruce's peers who are like, whoa, this is brand new information. Your relationship with your father affects your mental health for the rest of your life.
I wrote that down.
Yeah?
Like, I wrote, because I was, like, really going through this. I was like, well, you know what? I was thinking about my dad. I was like, this is for, well, if you're releasing a movie to a mass audience for like lots of people, but it definitely is for an older group of people that like just don't know, that haven't had the opportunity to engage with it as much as we have. Yeah. And this is like, it's the most palatable way to experience like going to therapy or coming to terms with your,
It's like The Sopranos.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I've been addicted to saying okay in Italian lately. Okay. So Bruce In addition to not wanting to live in the city during this period of time, he also suggests kind of like a less intensive recording experience. So typically he would have spent a lot of time in a studio with audio engineers, paying for studio time, which is like notoriously so expensive, and having to kind of like write and create in that environment with other people. And he feels a lot of pressure from that dynamic. And so he wants to try recording just like a demo at home by himself that they can later record in the studio, but like write all of it or write most of it beforehand, go in the studio with the demo, execute it with the band, not write it in the studio bit by bit, which probably lots of people do these days, especially indie musicians. Yeah. But technologically at the time, it was kind of like a new thing to have the equipment to record at home.
The way the process actually went, that I don't even think they like showed a little bit, was just the first half of the sessions went great. They basically recorded all of Born in the USA, the album that happened after. They kind of got it actually. Like John Lando told them, like, we have an album, we can release it now. They were sitting on like a gold mine. Bruce Springsteen was not like a singles person. He was like an albums person. I think they say that in the movie. And he like could have released this album immediately. Nebraska is a very, very heavy, scary album. Its inspirations are scary. It's like the subject matter is scary. And I think you owe your viewers, dare I say, a little bit of like reprieve. Give us something. Give us. I mean,
it was relentless. What I got out of the recording sessions and the demo was that the only song that they recorded and didn't put on Nebraska was the title track, "Born in the USA."
That's crazy.
So it seemed to me like they recorded like all of his demos. One of them was "Born in the USA," which was like a banger, upbeat, and it really worked well in the studio with the band. Yeah. And that they set that aside for later, and that then he finished "Born in the USA" after Nebraska. Like, that's what I understood. I think that's down to the writing. It also might be an editing thing, because I don't know. I feel like some productions overshoot a lot and then make a lot of decisions in editing. I know that's true of like the F1 movie, and I think that's part of its many, many problems. I think you should go to your shoot knowing exactly what the final product is going to look like, and if you change your mind, that's another thing. But it could have been the kind of thing where they recorded more and cut it down, and there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and then you lose sight of what's important. Okay, so the guy who comes over to deliver the recording equipment. What's that actor's name? I really like him. Paul Walter Hauser.
Great comedic relief.
Yeah, he's lovely. Paul Walter Hauser. So he shows up with I don't actually know what to call it, like the recording equipment for the demo. What was that big thing called?
It was called I don't know if it's one of those things I've always read but have never said out loud. So please, like, don't be fucking mean to me. It's the TEAC like 144 or something. It's a recording system. That's it. 4-track.
Okay, and it records onto cassette tapes. I thought he was just like the delivery man, but he actually stays in Bruce's house with him, or like comes over as the audio engineer. But it's still a lot less pressure than being like in a studio, obviously. Bruce is spending a lot of time kind of just like alone in this big, beautiful mid-century modern house, laying on the couch, laying on the floor, listening to music, playing his guitar. He spends a lot of time specifically in his bedroom. Like, he puts he puts like the recording system in the bedroom, going through clearly some like emotional down moments. We get a ton of flashbacks to his childhood. And all of these flashbacks are in black and white, just to make sure we're not too confused about what's going on. I didn't hate that the flashbacks were black and white, because it would have been like the 50s. So it's him in the 50s in New Jersey, little Bruce, about like 8 to 10 years old.
He's such a cutie patootie.
Extremely cutie patootie.
He's so freaking cute.
It's just him and his two parents in like a very small kind of rundown house. Yeah. Not doing great with money. It seems like his mom doesn't work. His dad works long hours. He's a truck driver, his dad.
I think he had various jobs, but that was one
of
them.
He had various jobs, but he works like a lot long hours, not a ton of pay. Yeah. His dad, Douglas, is very much an alcoholic. He comes home late from work, drunk. He is aggressive. He's violent. He's emotionally abusive. Bruce's mom, Adele, is not necessarily able to protect Bruce from it. She will like take Bruce to the bar with her and send him inside to get his dad out.
That actually made me so sad.
He's like 8 years old.
You know, that was actually one, I remember reading that and I was like, oh no, but seeing it, I was like, oh God.
Yeah, seeing a little kid walk into a bar full of men. He finds his dad sitting at the bar and kind of like tugs on his shirt or something. And he's like, he's scared. Like, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to say it, but he goes like, Mom says it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And his dad is just like, no, like, hey, buddy, how was your day?
No, it was just
none
like
of that.
bit, like, almost, like, it's routine at this point.
It's routine, and he's just very resentful of the fact that, like, his family exists.
Yeah.
In that way, like, his mom is not protecting him, and she is kind of triangulating. Like, it's very much a weird dynamic between the three of them. He's involved in all of their arguments. He's always dragged in. It's extremely stressful for a child, obviously. Bruce is like upstairs in his bedroom and he can hear his parents screaming and arguing. And it's unclear like to what extent there was physical abuse in the house, but you definitely hear like plates shattering, thuds. It seems like he was primarily an angry alcoholic. And as a result, they fought every day screaming, and sometimes he got violent. My problem with these flashbacks is that I got the story in the first flashback, which was maybe about 2 minutes long, pretty early in the movie. We have this flashback. You get it. It's not a unique dynamic, unfortunately.
It's not.
So then we get so many more flashbacks that are very similar, but like slightly different arguments this time. You don't learn anything new from those.
That's the thing. I thought they were just going to open with it and
Same.
you got it and then you moved on.
Then we moved on. Not moved on, but like now
like,
we
you
understood
at least
that
like
part
have
of the
it
story.
in the back of your, you have it as context.
Yes.
And they just kept going.
They just kept going back to it. They were feeding a fed horse. Back in the present day, actually, do you want to ask me your question?
So I was curious, at the beginning of the book, he literally lists out the pieces of inspiration. So going into the movie, I'm like looking for them. So I know them. And I knew when they were putting them out. But you didn't. So what did you gather were those pieces of inspiration?
The first one the movie shows is he sees on the news something about a serial killer, Starkweather, and he then like reads about him in the newspaper or whatever and is like kind of darkly fascinated by it. It's wrong and it's icky, but you just can't help being drawn towards it. And he writes a song inspired by that. I read that as him being like just kind of drawn to darkness and suffering. Stories of darkness and suffering because he feels that he's like suffering in dark, whatever. And it's also just like a thing of depression. You just have a pessimistic outlook and negative things like call to you a lot more.
Yeah.
So that was one like very distinct inspiration. The only other one that I remember like specifically was the mansion on a hill because we get a very literal flashback where we see his father driving him and just this other kid, like not his sister because he doesn't have a sister. Bro, so at home, there's never a sister. I was like, who's this child?
I think they just like forgot that they didn't include the sister, and they were like, wait, we need to include the sister somehow. She was there for this story. She was there for that story.
This whole time I've been talking, I'm saying Bruce is the only child. That's insane.
Don't say that.
If there's ever any piece of media written about my life and you don't mention my sisters, like
that would be crazy.
That'd be crazy. I was like, is that the neighbor? Is that his cousin? No, that's his sister. I guess I'll jump ahead to that in answer to your question because I actually kind of liked an element of that flashback. The linearity of the story doesn't matter too much. It's all like vignettes, kind of. His dad drives Bruce and his sister apparently to this like very wealthy neighborhood and they're kind of just looking at the nice houses and there's this huge mansion kind of on a hill and like cornfields next to it. And his dad says something to them like, if you know, all of your problems in life would go away if you could live somewhere like that. And he's just has this like kind of heartbreaking like yearning for wealth and comfort and security that to me that is a very interesting and compelling dynamic to explore is the way that poverty creates mental illness, like, or at least triggers depression. It's like, is it true that all your problems go away when you have money? Of course not. But when you're poor, you're not gonna probably get rid of your problems. Like, it's clear that his dad is suffering partly because he can't provide for his family. He probably spends all of his money on alcohol. And as a man, especially of that generation, like a lot of your pride and ego is tied to providing for the family. So I felt like that actually told me a lot about his dad. Yeah. And it gave a little bit more of like a feeling of empathy towards his father because I'm not feeling super empathetic towards this guy who like beats his wife and drinks. But then you see like a piece of his suffering and like the way that he compares himself to other people and wishes they had money. And then it also makes a lot of sense why Bruce is having this breakdown at a point in life when he's most successful because he was told, it was promised to him that success would bring happiness and take his problems away. And now he has gotten the success and his problems still exist. So that like fundamental like childhood promise his dad gave him is falling apart. Yeah. And I think that's part of why he has this mental breakdown. I got the thing that was like supposed to solve all the problems and it didn't.
Yeah.
So other than it being a super literal and like super absolutely banging me over the head with it take on Mansion on a Hill, the song, I thought the dialogue in that scene was really good.
Yeah. I mean, well, everything you just said just there is exactly what he was trying to do with Nebraska, is like, and also just like middle America poverty, like that's just a whole part of Nebraska. They just didn't get it, like the class part of the
and that
album
was the most compelling piece when it was
Yes.
given to us in that little drop. I wanted more of
like
that.
the book really does it doesn't really go into in the book, but it does give that's why I think it'd be a good documentary of giving the backdrop of like, this was 1982, I think, like this was Reagan America. This was coming off of an economic recession.
And he was kind of guilty about his own wealth.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know that, by the way, is because John Landau says it word for word to his wife. Which, my favorite part of this movie was John Landau's wife. Mrs. Landau made this movie for me. Because you get these moments where, like, his manager, John, played by Jeremy Strong, is, like, coming home from a stressful day of work dealing with
Bruce.
And his wife is, like, absolutely does not say a word. She's, like, always putting her hand cream on or kind of, like, putting the dishes away. Like, she's chill. She's fucking hanging out. And John Landau comes home and he's like, these are the words of a raving man. These are the words of a man who feels guilty and absolutely tormented. And she's like, oh, yeah, honey.
That? That's all she said. She goes, Meryl Streep's daughter, by the way.
Oh, yeah, Meryl Streep's
Gave
daughter.
her like 3 lines. I think it's so funny how they made a joke out of like, where's the case? Where's the case?
Oh, yeah, the cassette tape with the demo. Like, Bruce never has it in a case. He just keeps
never had
giving
it.
it to people raw.
He literally just put, the subtlety of like, there was one point where he just like had the cassette and Jeremy Allen White just like put it in his pocket. Like they didn't make, but I just noticed that because that was such a big point. He just threw
and like
it
the
around.
cassettes, like the tape piece is like kind of exposed.
He did when he got that tape initially was like, this is disturbing me. Like this is disturbing me.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how they were gonna just like give us
insight into his inner world. Yeah.
And using his wife as that, I thought it's of course he's talking to his wife about it. Like he needs a sounding board. Who better than his wife? I just wish that she also had insight.
It was insane. I'm sorry. The scenes with him and his wife were
There's
insane.
no way that she did not say anything that like
Don't include her if she's not a character.
Yes.
And this is the thing. This movie is treating us like we're stupid because I didn't actually need to hear John Landau say any of those words. All I needed to do was see him. I mean, Jeremy Strong's a great actor.
Love him. One of my favorite characters in the movie.
One of my favorite characters in the movie. Not in real life. We don't have to get into that. I could have just had a scene of Jeremy Strong sitting in his living room, pressing play on the demo, and I could have just watched his face. No dialogue. Actually, his wife could have been there too, and he could have looked at his wife, and she could have looked back at him.
I'm picturing it right now. I'm picturing it right now.
There were so many ways for us to understand that his manager, Bruce's manager, who is kind of his best friend and like the person closest to him at this point, it seems like. There were so many ways for us to see his reaction and understand that he was disturbed by how dark Bruce's inner world had become.
Yeah.
We didn't fucking need him to say it. And I get really frustrated when movies do this.
I know.
And this movie does it at every possible opportunity. Like, oh, you thought that you were kind of picking up on a theme? Let me just say it 2 or 3 more times in the dialogue for you to make sure you get it.
I mean, this goes back to when when I asked you about the sources of influence. And one of the big inspirations for Nebraska was Flannery O'Connor and her poetry. And you just see him like look at a Flannery O'Connor book.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And he like opens it and reads like 2 sentences and like closes it and just starts writing. And that I was like, okay, so it just feels like you're like trying to make a point that this was an influence, but you're not telling everyone, okay, who is what did she write? Why is this important?
It's just checking a box so
it's
that people like you will go, okay, yeah, they mentioned it.
And
I found that ridiculous.
Like they just show it on the table. And then same thing with the suicide. Well, I'm going to get back to Flannery O'Connor because it's related to John Landau, but same thing with suicide when he's on the ground listening to that album.
Yeah.
There's just way more to that like he knew the lead singer of Suicide before that. Like him.
I would never know that.
He was there was more. It would have been so cool if he even like whatever. I mean, I don't know.
The problem is that all of those little references, they just read as him being depressed in his house doom scrolling. Yeah. Like the 80s version of doom scrolling. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it doesn't feel like it's profoundly impacting also, his process.
We didn't hear enough of the album to know. Like for me, when I
hear that,
the
album.
I can hear what song. Like there's this song. Sorry, I'm blanking, but like
it's okay.
I can tell that really it sounds like he took inspiration from Frankie's Teardrop is the song he was playing.
Yeah.
But they don't play that song in the movie. And even if they do, like, I don't remember. It was probably 5 seconds. They played I'm on Fire. That's not on Nebraska. What I was getting at with these like little checkboxy influences was, so the show The Flannery O'Connor Book, I noticed it because it was in conversation he had with his wife in one of these scenes.
Yeah.
And he was
John
like,
Landau.
John Landau. Or maybe it was with Bruce. I don't remember. But he said, oh, like Flannery O'Connor said, blah, 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 blah. And he quoted Flannery O'Connor. And I thought that was their way of reminding people that she was an influence and trying to tell people like a blip of her writing. And I appreciate the effort, but no one remembers that. And also, John Landau's wife is the person who gave Bruce the Flannery O'Connor book in the first place.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, so she has like, that's why I'm like, every time these conversations happen, I'm like, she's not just sitting there listening, she's actually giving her input and her take on his artistic.
Don't piss me off.
I'm pissing you off.
So let's keep
Strap
adding
in,
in
baby.
things that would have been better. I like to give suggestions and edits
Yeah.
because I think it keeps me honest.
Yeah.
So that I don't just say this was bad. I'm going to tell you what would have been better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I like that.
If John Landau's wife, Mrs. Landau, I don't even know her fucking name.
I don't know her name.
If Mrs. Landau
God.
was actually a friend of Bruce and was involved in his creative process, why didn't we have a scene where she gives Bruce the Flannery O'Connor book and says like, take care of yourself, Bruce. Something to show that she gave him that book, thinking about him as a person and knowing that it would impact him.
Yeah.
And then later we see him like reluctantly finally kind of like flip it open like, ugh, what is this?
Damn, this is good.
And then
this is
fade out of that and he's like pages and pages in and he's underlining. Why wasn't anything? Isn't that so simple? Is that so straightforward and easy?
Yes.
Books are often used as like props in movies also. Like there's always like a book on the table or like a book someone's reading. It's not usually relevant to the plot.
Yeah.
It's like if you wanted to really get into it, you could see what it was. But in the case where it's like part of the subject matter, you got to do more. So I want to get into the relationship with Faye. So this movie has a fictional woman named Faye, who's like a true blue New Jersey girl from this town with a daughter, like a 6 or 7-year-old daughter, Haley. She's a single mom. And in real life, Bruce dated several different women during this time period. And like, I think they said that Faye is kind of a mix of like those different dating experiences, but they just put it into one character for the sake of the movie. Mm-hmm. She meets Bruce outside the Stone Pony when her brother says hi to Bruce because they knew each other in high school, whatever. She's a fangirl. She loves Bruce, but she's also very cool.
Yeah.
And hot.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Her hair.
She has the blonde, like 80s, like Farrah
Like
Fawcett.
wispy.
She kind of looks like Debbie Harry, I feel like.
She
Or maybe it
does.
was just the hair. She's also a fan of Blondie.
Yeah.
Odessa Young. So I had not heard her name before. Seems like she's been in like a few stuff over the years, but this might be her biggest thing. Anyway, I thought she was lovely. The introduction of a love interest is inevitable, and I have no problem with it. I was a little bit disappointed that it turned out to not be like one real woman, because I'm like, wait, but that's actually such an important part of this movie, was that you were like monogamous with her during this period of time. If the truth is that you were like very casually breaking hearts, that's just a different story. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying like you're a bad guy. I'm just saying like that is relevant.
That's the reality though, but I think
like,
a Bruce fan would be like, no, he's not like dating. No, he's...
Come on.
He's notorious for dating so many people. Just don't see him. I think they just didn't do that because they didn't want to paint him out to be.
And that's part of the problem with like a biopic where the subject is still alive and like you want to like kind of respect them. I'm like, if we can't be like brutally honest, then it gets a little bit uninteresting and like glazed over. Yeah. Not that I don't think he showed himself in an unflattering light sometimes, because there were definitely unflattering moments. And like, I don't think that Bruce has a huge ego. Yeah. Compared to what he could be. Yeah. I don't think like Brad Pitt's looming ego and destructive force on the F1 movie was so crazy. Bruce Springsteen on his own movie about himself did not do too much, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, so this relationship with Faye is like a whole thing. He meets her outside the show and she like kind of hits on him, gives him her number, but she's very like cool about it. She's like, listen, like I'm sure this happens to you all the time, but like call me if you want. Gives him her number. And he says, I'm kind of seeing someone, but then he does call her later. Yeah. And you're kind of like, okay, was he lying or did he break up with the woman?
You know what? I was wondering, about that. I was like, oh, so this is dead.
Because when he rejected her, it seemed very genuine that he was like, look, I'm sure we'd have a lot of fun together, but like, I'm kind of seeing someone right now. Yeah. And then cut to
maybe that was their way of hinting that he's dating multiple people.
I think so. But like, so did you break up with that girl because you were so into Faye? Or it's whatever. I think the reason why I liked Faye so much is kind of our first introduction to her after she gives him her number is he goes to her house to pick her up. He rings the door and the child, Haley, opens the door and is like, hello. And he's very cute with her. He like crouches down to her level to like make eye contact and talk to her, which I love. And then Faye comes to the door and is like, sorry, whatever, like living with my parents for right now. She's a very like frazzled single mom vibe.
Yeah.
But he's late.
Yeah.
By like an hour or something. He was like late. And I remember this because she says to him,
piss me off.
That's okay. We're used to men letting us down in this house.
I don't remember.
And then her mom in the background is like, Faye. And she's like, sorry. If that's not me saying something like so rude. And my mom being like, Christy,
dude, like, look, I'm just
like, at this point now I'm just talking about a character that's not a real person. So keep that in mind. But she's such a huge fan of his music, but she's not like sycophantic. Like she doesn't see him as, she's not a stan.
Yeah.
She still has like self-respect.
Yeah.
For a lot of this movie, he takes her to this like small like carnival in town and they break in and she's like, we're getting in trouble. And he goes, no, we won't. I'm king of this town. Or no, he says, in this town, I'm king.
That would get me.
Okay, that pissed me off. Like, just open the gate and shut up.
I would love that.
In this town, I'm king. But okay, it was really cute. It was a cute date, though. Yeah. He turns on the car.
Because if someone did that in New York, you'd be like, who?
What town? What are you talking about?
Who are you? Like,
It is cute that they like break in after hours and he turns on the carousel and like she sits on one of the horses on the carousel. It is very like
picturesque.
And it also captures the like small town charm and like how romantic it can be. And she's like sitting on one of the horses that like kind of like goes up and down around the carousel.
Were you thinking the same thing I was thinking in that scene?
That it was like
awkward to kiss like that. He was like,
I have so many thoughts about the like I have so many thoughts about like the dynamics of that scene because she's sitting on this thing and it's kind of going up and down, right? And the shot is steady, so she's moving up and down in front of us. Not only is it kind of awkward, but he's standing behind her, not sitting on a horsey himself. So he's on solid ground here. He's making her sit on the fucking horse and crane her neck and turn around.
This is why
a gentleman would stand next to her in front of you. Facts is how you know a man directed it. Yeah. So like we kind of want to see her ass in the jeans, like really perched there. It was a good kiss. It was good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And they talk about what music they like and she has good taste.
Yeah. Classic.
And he's like, that's so cool. I've never met a woman who likes music before. He's like, I can't believe I never noticed you before. And it's like, babe, she just named like everybody's top 5 Spotify artists. Like, please.
So then she did the classic, like, oh, I know this guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Bruce Springsteen. Like,
okay, but she pulled it off.
The actress. I also would have... You cannot say that. You cannot.
And it was also like a cute kind of dynamic of her being like, okay, fine, I like your music, but like, don't make me fawn over you. I'm not gonna fawn over you. Yeah. And she says something too in that moment. She's like, oh, I really don't want to be making a mistake. And he kisses her and she pulls away and she's like, I'm definitely making a mistake. Which I roll, but also I was like, you are reading red flags accurately.
Yeah. You know, that is probably super accurate to like the girls he dated at the time. They knew he was dating his reputation. They know, like, you know, when you're getting into something that isn't gonna work out.
I wouldn't date a musician, period, let alone a rock star. There's certain things that come with it. Going on tour, having groupies, having your ego, having your money. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Let's just say her character is presented to us as a very confident, self-respecting adult woman with standards and with a child who she like cares about protecting.
Yeah.
Right? That characterization really falls apart because throughout the movie, he treats her like garbage. After this like incredibly romantic first date, he like visits her at work. She is a waitress at a diner. Mm-hmm. The like diner itself is like family run, very New Jersey, very sweet. And so her daughter like sits at the restaurant as like babysitting basically while she works, which is great, right? But she's like busting her ass, working in the service industry, and he doesn't really care.
Also, the other date they had at the shore, like they weren't,
I
they were
forgot
in
about
Asbury Park, I think that was, and they just like
it was the Jersey Shore boardwalk.
It was one of those like montage scenes where you're just
and her daughter's there.
And her daughter's
so they go on this like super romantic like family day on the pier
Yeah.
Which, like, if you've been to the Jersey Shore and you know that, like, big, wide boardwalk, it's, like, very Americana, very romantic. And this poor little girl whose dad, like, abandoned her. He's like, where's Haley's dad? She's like, he doesn't really.
Yeah.
I rarely hear from him. So this little girl now is, like, forming a bond with mommy's boyfriend, Bruce.
That's what I was like.
And he is kind of like all of his childhood trauma and all of his issues with feeling emotionally neglected by his dad and by his parents.
Yeah.
You feel like he's kind of like healing that by treating this child the way that he should have been treated, you know, like with gentleness and love. Yeah. Just that kind of paternal male softness that he didn't have. He's giving that to her. It's not his daughter. It's his casual girlfriend's daughter. And then he does ditch them and ghost them. How could you do that?
You know, I was wondering, like, what's the purpose of course there has to be love interest, but why have a daughter? Another part of that is, like, this daughter was a source of influence in a way, and that, like, he was seeing this childhood innocence to her. It sounds like a cliche, but, like, there's 2 songs. I know at least one song on the album that's, like, written from a child's point of view. Actually, it's Mansion on the Hill. A memorable part of the book for me, when the author talks about Mansion on the Hill, is that it's written from a kid's perspective. And the Mansion on the Hill was originally a song by Hank Williams. It's about a guy who's writing about his ex, like, lover who left him to go with a rich man. He now she lives in the mansion on the hill. I think that's generally the song, but it's written from an adult's point of view. And yes, there's, like, class in that. But now this Mansion on the Hill is about driving around with your dad and looking at a mansion on the hill and knowing you can't ever get that. Something about having a child's perspective is way, like, talking about class is way less like dogmatic than an adult. There's, like, some sort of wonder
really
and
raw.
Like, why is this so bad? Like, a kid can't really get it, but you understand that kid way more than you would an adult. And I think this daughter was able to show him, this is working class America, and here's a kid's perspective that I can't get out of my head right now.
Yeah, I agree. Because Faye is like...
Yeah, like, she's a single mom.
And her daughter is, like, so loved and so cared for. It's almost like realizing that, like, all of your childhood problems were not just because you were poor. Because here's a poor kid who is so loved and protected and taken care of.
She's actually such a great example of, like, you can be poor and have such a strong community.
Yes.
Like, she could just call her in the diner, and, like, she has her mom working there. Employees there do not care. They treat her like one of their own. Like,
having a village.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's always more compelling to hear about poverty from the perspective of a child because there's so much innocence and it doesn't have jealousy or, like, bitterness. It is purely that feeling of, like, unfairness of, like, oh, I don't have this thing.
Yeah.
Like Dolly Parton talking about being poor as a kid is always, like, very compelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Faye having a daughter makes sense for a lot of reasons. I just found that it was perhaps downplayed how bad his behavior was when he kind of doesn't call Faye back and is ditching her, and she keeps calling, which, like, girl, stand up, like, stop calling.
That's why I felt like originally in the movie, like, when she was first introduced, she felt so
she's a girl I would respect and be friends with. Here's the problem is that, like, I feel like her character was too perfect in the sense that whenever she's calling Bruce or trying to get him to, like, pay attention to her thing is, like, I know that you like me and I know that you're running away from it because you're scared. In real life, maybe you think that about someone, but if they consistently let you down and they keep ghosting you and not answering you at a certain point, like, you don't still know that they like you. And also, like, even if they do, it's not worth it because they're treating you so badly. Yeah. It's just weird for her to have had that, like, total clarity to his inner world to be like, I know he loves me. He just doesn't want to do it. I thought that was really weird.
She was just underwritten. Like, I don't understand how it escalated that quickly.
Yeah.
And then I understand if she had that conversation with him, and if I saw more of her, I just didn't see her.
I was judging her. Honestly, I was judging her for, like, introducing her daughter so closely to him so early in the relationship. I mean, obviously I'm judging him more. I think he's fucked for, like, doing that.
I kind of eye rolled when she was like, you're running away from your problems.
Yeah, they have this horrible conversation.
That, like, classic, like, girl telling guy off, you're running away from your problems.
You know, the only time I liked that was in The Social Network when she says, like,
that's good though. Oh, that's
you're gonna go through life and girls are not gonna like you, and I want you to know it's not because you're a nerd, it's because you're an asshole. Oh, that's
classic.
Good. That gets me every time. That was a read, right? That was, like, a good read.
Yeah.
And then she leaves.
Yeah.
Bruce has been ignoring her for weeks or months, it seems like, right? Like, she keeps calling his home and he keeps not answering.
Yeah, he just doesn't
And, like,
answer.
our perspective of why he's not answering is just that he's, like, too depressed and, like, self-loathing kind of and doesn't have it in him to, like, the longer you go without answering, the more you have to explain yourself of why you haven't answered, and just, like, piles up and piles up.
And I'm genuinely curious now about, I want to know who these girlfriends
I want to know in more detail what was going on.
I want to know, and I want to know if any of them had kids. Probably.
Because to me, it's like very, very ugly.
Yeah.
Very, very ugly behavior that he played house with her and the daughter. And I think she even says that.
Yeah.
We're real people. We're not here to play house. And then ditched them very cruelly. And then Faye like kind of gives up on calling him or something. And he goes to her work. He visits her at work unannounced. Everything's on his time. Everything's on his terms.
Everything is...
When he wants to see her, when he wants to be in a relationship, they're in a relationship.
I know, I'm getting
Too real. Yeah, this is definitely just about Bruce, not about anything else.
Not about anything else.
But yeah, everything's on his terms. So he goes to see her, and she's like exhausted after a fucking 12-hour shift or something. Sits down at the diner, and he's like, I think I'm gonna go to LA. Like, is that not the first thing he says? They sit down, and he's like, listen, I think I'm gonna have to move to LA.
He moves to LA to get out of a relationship.
What are you talking about? And first of all, which is a crazy thing to say, not,
crazy.
Hey, sorry I abandoned you and your kid. It really bothers me how wealthy he is, and she's so poor with a daughter, and he never like helps her.
Yes.
It's weird to me.
Yes.
I feel like it's very weird to sit around being guilty and hand-wringing that you have all this money and it's not true to who you are.
He was out of touch with how wealthy he was because I don't think he wanted to admit it to himself.
Exactly. Such a self-centered thing.
Oh, yeah.
This cycle of like, I feel guilty about this thing. I'm not going to change it though, but I feel really guilty about it. This is about me. It's about me. It's about me. It's about me.
Yeah.
His like guilt around his money is all about himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, if you feel bad about having money, that impulse is coming from like a logical place of money being unfair, and there's things you can do to help other people, and then you wouldn't feel so guilty.
Yeah.
But he's not able to like go through that like mental process.
No.
You know, woe is me, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Hot waitress girl, has daughter, cute baby. Actually, never mind. And then she in this conversation is really pushing him and being like, you're just running away from your problems, Bruce.
I just think it's a classic, like, he dated a lot because it provided some sort of comfort, some sort of normalcy.
Yeah.
She was good to him. And then when he just exhausted it, he moved on.
He just didn't feel like putting himself
on.
into it. Yeah.
No, and that's women
But
aren't
she's
therapy.
insisting
Women
that
aren't therapy.
he's like
you can't do that.
She's insisting that he's denying what he really wants, which is her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what I thought was so weird.
Yes.
And kind of humiliating.
It's like, well, what if she
It's like a humiliation
He
ritual.
doesn't want you.
What signs has he given you that he wants you?
Yeah. That I know. I wish that conversation was a little bit, I don't know, less.
Now, let me be fair. I cried because in this scene, like it's late at the diner, and the like older woman who is her manager, or whatever, is kind of looking suspiciously, like waiting to maybe defend her if necessary. All the people in the diner are like worried about her. They adore her, and she's like keeping a brave face on with Bruce, and she kind of gets choked up, and she's like, "Haley and me are real people. We are not here to play house with you." And that was like a good line to me. That's exactly what the problem was. But then she keeps going to the Bruce, you're running, make it about Bruce. Finally, when he leaves, or she's like, listen, like, I don't care anymore. And she walks away. She goes into the back room and bursts into tears, like where he can't see her, and starts like sobbing. And that's when I started like fully like waterworks crying.
That wrecked me. Yeah.
That feeling of like, just don't let him see you cry. Just don't let him see you cry. Make sure he doesn't think you're going to cry. And then you just fucking fall apart.
Yep.
I think that was very real.
That was so visceral. And I think she was a good example of the people he was writing about, and that she had this hope for something that was not going to work out. It's kind of like he has a song in the album called Reason to Believe. It's like the last song. And it's this, it's like 3 or 4 stories about people that have something that happened to him, some sort of loss of a relationship, a person. But the narrator, him, is like, well, there have some reason to believe. And I mean, I think the song is really interesting because there's a lot of interpretations. I think the narrator is belittling them, but I think he's also envious that they have something that they believe in that he doesn't have himself.
Yes.
And I think that she is a good example kind of this, like, she's believing in this relationship. She wants it to work, but she knows that it's not going to work. But she's just believing in something.
Yeah.
And she's going to get let down. That's Nebraska as a whole. It's like, you're going to get let down, but
if you don't have hope, like, what
else is there? Yeah. And it's okay to like she got let down, but she's going to pick up and keep moving. She's going to keep moving.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you said that because that does make her make a little bit more sense to me. I'm the type of person that's like, okay, I have to be a little bit delusional about my life. I can see why people are envious of that. It is mental illness. Like it is an inability to like have that mood baseline. And it's like, first of all, I'm medicated. Yeah. And that's why I'm able to do that.
Seriously.
And second of all, it is a personality and it's something that you learn. I feel that I was always taught to focus on the positives. Yeah. There's also like a gratitude thing with like, we were both raised Catholic and it's very much count your blessings, be grateful. And there's a way that that can be, you know, harmful where you don't actually acknowledge some things are just bad and you're allowed to be upset about things. But it also has been very helpful to just genuinely spend more time in your brain thinking about good things than about bad things. Because like the stories you tell yourself affect everything you do.
100%.
And I do think there's an element of like innate ability to do that. And there's an element of just being taught hope and positivity. Obviously, Bruce was not. He was raised in an environment that was very, his dad pitied himself, woe is me, everything is miserable. And so how would he know how, he was never taught, it was never modeled to him how to just like be present and like grateful for what you have. Okay, let's get into probably my favorite part of this movie, which was the whole process from demo to album. So the initial intention was that Bruce was going to record a demo in his bedroom that they would then re-record in the studio as a vinyl and like release that with the band. So all of the recordings on the demo were acoustic. It was just him and his guitar in his bedroom. And it was a little bit like lo-fi. I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
how would you say? Like, and there was like reverb on it, like a natural reverb on it. And it was just, it was a very different sound than you get from like a polished studio recording with a whole band. They're like, okay, let's get the band in the studio. We're going to get this done. And they do Born in the USA first. And it comes out sick. It's like so fun. The scene of them recording it is great. And it is exactly the kind of song that like needed a full band. Like it was not meant to be acoustic, I feel like.
Yes.
So it sounds good. And they're like, cool, we'll come back tomorrow. We'll keep recording. Everything's fine. Do you know which song they tried to record next in the movie?
I don't remember.
That he didn't like? Let's say it was Nebraska. And they're listening back to it after in the studio. And Bruce is just kind of like, it's not right. It doesn't sound right. And he starts, Jeremy Allen White especially starts playing up the like visionary kind of. Like he really is an artist where like, if you believe in an artist's vision, they're going to be fucking annoying and they're going to be a perfectionist. You kept saying he's known for being a perfectionist. So he's insisting he doesn't like how it sounds. He actually wants it to sound exactly like the demo and not like how it sounded in the studio. And so Landau and like the studio engineers and the sound engineers, they're all kind of looking at each other like, like, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. But they're like, all right, Bruce. Okay, Bruce, everything's okay. Since Bruce like really insists on this, they start on this whole journey of trying to engineer the sound to go from the cassette itself to a vinyl.
They were trying to take...
It's always when you talk.
Life is just like, shut up.
I'm surprised you didn't do your mixtape joke.
Oh my God, I haven't done that in such a long time.
So long, I know. I think of you every time I hear sirens. Isn't that sweet?
Oh, wait, that's really beautiful.
I really do. Like Nickie would say this
Nickie would say something right now. What was I saying?
About how the cassette to the vinyl.
Oh, you recorded on this cassette tape and then you mix it and then you master it.
Oh, okay.
I think the mastering process is what they did with the vinyl. Like, again, I could be wrong. Please don't come after me. What that process they were showing you with the vinyl, though, was unorthodox in that they tried so many different things. What you don't actually get insight to is, like, the team itself he was working with, like Bruce, chooses people not because they're, like, perfect at their craft or, like, they're the best. They just know how to work with the band. Like, they just know how to work with you.
You spend so much time together. You have to, like...
Yeah. You just, like, know what... So his lead... The person that wound up mixing it, I think his name was, like, Chuck Plotkin or something. Like, so many people were trying to mix it.
What a name.
And then they chose him because he just knew what to do. He was not a professional... He was not an engineer. He was not professional. He was just, like...
The guy who ultimately figured it out? Or the guy in the beginning?
The guy that figured it out.
Oh, wow.
I could be wrong, but, like... He wasn't a professional. He was just like going off of what worked essentially. All the people that were trying to mix it were doing too much. He was just like,
Bruce kept saying, no, you changed it. You changed it. Because they were trying to clean up the sound.
And he was like, no, stop it. And I'm going to put a pin in that. And eventually they took it to, I think they gave you a snapshot of where they went. I think it was like Atlantic Records or something.
Yeah.
What worked there was using really old equipment. And at that time, they were recording at the power station. I think we saw that. That's like a very famous recording studio in New York. I think people record there now, like Gracie Abrams.
I felt like it was at 40 Rock.
I could be wrong. Yeah,
I don't know why.
No,
but
it's like in that area. I know. Okay, I think it's in that area actually, but it's one of those like Electric Lady Studios, which was like Jimi Hendrix thing. Like it's still around. It's
legendary.
It's legendary. That is like a private recording studio, I think you would call it. But no one was really recording at like their label studio. So they went to Atlantic Records because they had technology from like the newest technology and like the oldest stuff you could think of. But
they had the money to kind of preserve.
People still, yeah, exactly. They had the money to preserve it, and people wanted that sometimes because they wanted to preserve a certain type of sound. So what worked with this like personal home recording system was like the cheap equipment essentially that worked, and that's what they eventually found. And I just
so cool.
I just wish we just like learned. There's I feel like there's so much drama in that. There's so much drama in that. Like it sounds mundane, but it's kind of like you're on the edge of your seat. Like what's gonna work?
I mean, it stressed me out.
Yeah.
The feeling of like technology thwarting something you worked so hard on is so heartbreaking because it's like we think of technology as just like a medium, like just to facilitate getting stuff done, but sometimes it kind of is the whole thing where you're way more vulnerable and way more reliant on it than you want to be. And I feel like that's the position they were in, where this
100%.
cassette tape with no case on it, you just feel this like stress of how vulnerable it is and how delicate it is.
And they're just carrying it around
They're just carrying it around. And every time they try to master it differently, I'm like, did they just fuck it up forever? Like,
yes.
Because they're putting it through all these like systems.
And like I just can't get over like what we're listening to is like the cassette. Like I said, he's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
So before in all of these albums, he's performing and he knows he's making an album. This he was recording not knowing this was going to be an album. So there's like this sort of looseness to his voice. It's just him in a room and you hear it. And he was using like kind of faulty technology. I think they showed it in the movie, but he mixed it with the boombox and that boombox ran too quickly.
Yeah, the time was off.
So when you played it back, it was really slow. But it works for this album because this album is dark and gloomy and violent. And when you hear his voice be slower and lower, it just adds this like veil of gray. You know? It's just
I
like
loved
scary.
that. I forgot about that. But when they play it back and someone's like, it's too slow. And then he goes, it's perfect.
It's right. It's perfect.
It's like that element of like the spontaneity where like something goes wrong. And
you're like, no.
There are no mistakes.
Part of
only happy little accidents.
You know, like when you know that one Banksy or something that they sold and they like, as soon as it sold, he like shredded it, but it was like half shredded. And then everyone in the art world was like,
50 million. Yeah.
This is crazy.
And that's what Bruce Springsteen was created. Yeah, Bruce Springsteen walked so Banksy
and I walked in there and said, I want to make history.
And that's what this is. But I really, really loved the whole story of the engineers working with him. I love the idea of like when art becomes so collaborative and like ultimately you do have to rely on other people and how uncomfortable that is as an artist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved it. And I think it was very cool also to see Bruce kind of like rise to that level of like being the boss, not to like, no pun intended, but like the whole movie is kind of pitiful.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's the thing. This is like so strange to see him
like that. That's not his like persona at all.
No.
But when it comes to like releasing this album the way he wants, he kind of comes into himself and puts his foot down. And as much as it's like you're a diva or whatever, I respect that in an artist because you have a vision and that's the reason, that's why you're an artist ultimately is because you want it exactly how you want it. Yeah. And I said this to you like outside the theater too, but that's something I find really frustrating a lot of time with pop music because I love pop music and I love pop artists. But it feels like oftentimes music is coming out so quickly and it's so like quantity over quality that every song kind of feels like a demo. Like it feels like a second version. And I'm like, there was such a good idea here. I really like you as an artist. I wish you would have agonized over this. Like I wish you would have recorded it 50 times. And Chappell Roan has talked about like how she hated Red Wine Supernova because they kept rewriting it and kept doing it a different way. And it was so frustrating to get it right. It took like a year. And compared to stories of like, oh, we wrote this song in 5 minutes, which I understand both.
Yes.
And she also said like other songs of hers she wrote in 5 minutes, whatever. But I really respect and appreciate that because that is what makes it such a like arresting sound, where you listen to Chappell Roan's album for the first time and you're just like, whoa, this is different. Like someone really sat here and like agonized over it. I respect that in art.
Yeah. 100%.
I think you should be going over it 5,000 times.
Like a genius isn't just someone that just like comes up with something in a night. Like no, it takes work. Yeah. You have this vision. You're
unless
like, trying to
you're Dolly
execute.
Parton,
Yeah.
and the song that you write in 5 minutes is something that would take someone else 5 years. So just know I'm never talking about Dolly.
That is like you put that over there, you know?
But I feel like so many people want to be that and want to be like, yeah, this just came to me. And I'm like, we can tell, babe. I can tell you wrote this in one day.
I can tell.
And I hate that.
And I think you're going to need a couple more days.
Never Bruce, though.
No.
All right. So finally, they get it right. And his album can be like mass produced on vinyl and sold and released. Mm-hmm. So yay, everyone's so excited. And he's like celebrating with John, right? They're like at a diner or something.
Oh my gosh.
And John's like, this is going to be great. Like, I'm so proud of you, Bruce. Like, we're going to love this album. And, you know, we can talk about all the details later. And Bruce is like, oh yeah, by the way, no singles, no press, no tour. And it cuts to like Jeremy Strong and he's just like,
he's like, I've already gone through so much shit.
Like the open mouth kind of like torment. It was very Kendall Roy. It was very like him being like, oh fuck. But do you want to speak more to that and maybe how it came out in the book? Like him deciding that?
I mean, I'm glad you asked this because like, again, another reason why I think this should have been a documentary is because there's just like context around the way that you bring this to a record label. Like, I can imagine that if when you were watching this, you were like, so they just agreed to that? Like, what do you mean they just agreed?
There's like a little pushback, and he has one conversation with the record where he's like the record representative, and it's like kind of a funny thing in John Landau's office, and he goes, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, and that's it.
Yeah, which I love that scene, by the way. I love that scene. Like, I mean, I don't really think we talked about Jeremy Strong playing John Landau that much. Like, he was amazing. I think he did he did a great job. I just like loved a big part of this movie too was like their brotherhood and their he's his manager, but he just like knows how to work with them. He knows how to always be on his side. He knows when to push and he knows when to step away.
Yeah. He internalizes all of the pressure and stress and kind of filters it.
Yes. That's why he makes such a good manager. Like
it gave me
so good.
I did feel that it was kind of like an ode to all of the managers in the industry as well.
Yes, that's so true.
Like if I'm a manager who has like gone through shit with an artist watching this, I'd be like, finally some recognition. Because it shows how like it really does take someone
work. It's not just planning.
No, the business of music and the business of any art industry is such a huge part of it, and there's always going to be like creatives who don't really want to do the business stuff and it's not their thing, and then business people who love the art but are not artists themselves, and there's that like beautiful relationship of like it really is his job, and he's so good at his job to like protect Bruce from the business side of it, but also make sure that like he's not missing out on these huge opportunities. And then it's Bruce's job to just make the music and usually to tour and perform.
And you can hear him kind of like remind him a little bit, be like, hey, like, you know, we have an album that we can release. Like we can shelve it for now.
The
but, like,
Born in the USA
Born in the
album.
USA. He's like, I will do whatever you want to do now, but like, that's not going away. Like he's still he's just so good about it. I love that scene. I think I told you this after we left. They were outside the power station. He was like really frustrated about the album. And Jeremy Allen White, he like just like kneels down, but in the same beat, Jeremy Strong kneels down with him. It was like he had his eyes
curb, right? Like
on the curb,
sidewalk.
and it wasn't even just like Jeremy Strong kneels and Jeremy Allen White kneels. God, they're both named Jeremy.
Bruce and
Bruce
John.
Kneels and John. Yeah, no, I don't know.
No, I feel
Bruce Kneels, John. It's not like it was one after the other. It was at the same time, and I don't think that was scripted. It just felt so like he was with him the entire time, and he just
it was almost biblical to me.
Yeah.
It was literally like I don't know. It was like Jesus and a disciple. Like, do you know what I mean? That like
John just
image of companionship of like this like soul tie.
Yeah, they just like exactly.
And it was beautiful. It was beautiful to see between men to see that like loving platonic relationship, and not that they were so lovey-dovey and affectionate, but there was so much trust between them.
So, that line where he was just like, in my office, we believe in Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to believe in this no tour, no press, whatever, but if you believe in Bruce Springsteen, you know that this is going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone knew the answer at that time, but retrospectively, like, this was such a great career move and like impact that he's an artist. He's not putting out hits one after the other.
Yeah.
Like, he's not, and he mentions Elvis a little bit in the movie, but that was a huge influence for him. And I think to our generation, Elvis can sound like a little bit of like we don't really take him as seriously, I think. And I don't want to speak for our entire generation, but I don't know.
I don't respect Elvis.
I don't really think we do, because we know everything about him now. Exactly. Yeah. We know everything about him. But like, he was growing up, he was like amazing. Like, and it makes sense. And for Elvis, you know, he kind of just sold out. Like, he made all of these hits and then kept making money grabs because of his management. I mean, there's a whole thing about that. I don't think Bruce wanted to do this and again, this is where the discourse is. Some people think, like, was this a strategic move to solidify himself as a serious artist in the music industry, to take a 180, do something that's like indie, and then go back to fame? I don't think so.
It's way too authentic for that.
Easily to say that retrospectively, but retrospectively, I think like John somehow knew that just like this was going to work out.
Because ultimately, like, Bruce's brand is authenticity. And this is the problem with, like, a lot of artists whose brand is so, like, parasocial and kind of, like, diaristic storytelling.
Yeah.
It's really hard to maintain that if you are also a business person.
Yeah.
And I feel like, first of all, John knew it's Bruce's way or the highway. We're not putting anything out if Bruce doesn't approve of it, so we kind of have to. But also that, like, the audience he's built responds to him being authentic.
Yeah.
And as like different as this music is, it just feels honest.
He just trusted him. That's
also it's the thing about like overexposure. Like, it's true that if an artist is like so in your face all the time, tour, record, press tour, movie, record, you inevitably get sick of them and you're like, enough.
It reminds me that, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence just talked about that. I don't know if
about why she's kind of been,
how she like took a break and came back. She was like, I was kind of sick of myself.
Yeah.
Like, and it was such an honest thing for someone in the entertainment industry to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he was feeling. He just couldn't really describe at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, I think fame is like an underrated mental stressor.
Yeah, because people don't want to feel bad for famous people, because obviously you're gonna be like, oh,
like, I don't. Money. It's not about pity or.
It's not about that. Yeah.
Lot is worse. Just like genuinely think for a second.
Yeah.
About existing as a very famous person. I really don't think I could do it.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. He wanted to be like he wanted to be famous. He was being a perfectionist because he wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I think it just came so fast.
You don't know what you're signing up for.
It came so like. He just had to take a pause. He had to take a beat.
Also, how old was he? He was like around 30.
Yes, I think. This was one thing my dad, I was like, what would you rate the movie? He was like, oh, this is when we got drinks after the movie. And
I couldn't go.
We were like debriefing, whatever. There's actually two things wrong with the movie, or like inaccurate. One was when he was talking to Faye's daughter and he was like, oh, it's for dinner, and she was like, hot dog with mustard, and he was like, oh, that's my favorite too. Bruce Springsteen hates mustard.
That's such a weird thing for them to write in though.
I know, and that's why I'm kind of pissed. I'm like, this is so minor. He talks about it in concerts. He literally says into the mic in front of thousands of people, I hate mustard, don't give me mustard.
Do you think they were like winking at Bruce fans to be like, see, he lied to this kid just to be like nice to the kid?
Maybe, probably. But why? Probably because Bruce was on set. He read the script. He could have said, no, for, like, this Bruce is inaccurate. Like,
Bruce hates mustard, so therefore he's just saying that to be cute to this kid. But like, I'm not doing those gymnastics.
Definitely. And then the second thing was at the end when he was like saying he was 32 or something. My dad like did the mental math sitting in his seat in his head being like, no, he had to have been 34 or something.
Oh, okay.
So we did the math. He should have been 34, I think. But I was like, Dad, it's 2 years.
Those are the same to me.
I think
it is weird to have it be wrong. It's the type of thing where I'm like, why would you have that wrong?
Like it's so minor.
It doesn't really matter, but like, why is your math wrong? It wouldn't
kill you to like change it in the script.
Hey, just double check.
Someone had to have known. I think.
Well, I didn't even know what age he was, but I got that he was like 30 or so. Yeah. And I think it's true that like scientifically, a lot of mental illnesses emerge in your late 20s. Mm-hmm. So there's like the biological aspect of that where like just a certain point in your brain development, like things come up that maybe have been lurking under the surface. And also the nature
of being an artist is you're
thinking about
being
yourself
introspective.
Too much. Yeah.
You are literally, your job is to write songs about your life. I mean, you're not, maybe not, but like he was writing songs about his life.
So introspective.
So he was just like forced to confront himself all the time. And being on stage, and why I think he's a better stage artist than a recorder, is like he can be anyone who he wants on stage. He's performing quite
I think some people just have that thing where you just put them on a stage and they just come alive.
That's why I think he did that's why he did so many just like pop-ins in places. And in that time when he was recording Nebraska, he was only known to go to like maybe it was Stone Pony. Twice he was like performing somewhere else, and he was just doing covers. That's the interesting thing. Like he wasn't even performing his own songs. He was like performing covers. He was not trying to be himself.
Yeah.
He was doing other things.
Yeah.
And you can just escape that way.
Total identity crisis.
Yeah.
Like,
He was literally he was going through his quarter life
To me,
crisis.
it's like I would think you were crazy if you didn't have a mental breakdown from
Right?
fame.
Yeah.
You can have the best support system in the world and the most like stable mental health. It's just like a really weird thing to experience.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, so after the album is done and it's mastered the way he wants is when he goes and tells Faye that he's going to LA.
Yes.
They have their like official breakup. And then
As soon as he got what he
his
wanted.
friend drives him across the country.
Also, that friend, that was the first time we met that friend.
Okay, it's the same friend who drove him to the rental in New Jersey, but like we see him drive him to the rental in New Jersey and then drive him to California, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's his only friend.
That is his only friend. I wonder, like, if that's true or not, but we barely got a...
Was that not in the book?
That was in the book. And
Oh.
it was, I mean, that was in the book. I don't really remember the friend's name, but I do remember
Like it wasn't
there was a friend
that important. Yeah.
But like the scene in the book, like that friend was also going through a breakup at the time, and he was like holding a teddy bear in the car ride there. Like I want to see that. Like that's
so
hilarious and kind of
cute.
sad. And like I
Just
think
two boys being
if we're talking about brotherhood in this movie with John and Bruce, there's an element of brotherhood right there. Who is his friend?
I felt that it was really weirdly
Who would be
vague.
willing
because
to drive
wanted
him
know who
all
that
of that
was.
way?
Literally, that was my thought. I'm like, you're so lonely and so alone. Who is your bestie who's driving you across the country?
I want to know. No, exactly. I want to know.
Y'all don't
And
talk?
that scene, I just can't. That scene where they go to that county fair in Texas, maybe.
Oh
Middle
my
America.
gosh. Yes, they're driving across the country and they stop somewhere and they go to a county fair. There's like big crowds of people and like lights and stuff. And there's a carousel, just like the one in their hometown where he took Faye. And he like kind of starts having a panic attack and he keeps seeing people in the crowd.
Yeah.
So he sees Faye and Haley kind of from the back in the crowd, like sort of having visions of them. And then there's people flashing all over. And then he sees like a father and a young son together who are the same kind of age and size as him and his father in the flashbacks.
And we got that immediately when we saw them.
Immediately you're like, oh, he's thinking about his
for sure,
dad.
that has to be.
He's thinking about his papa.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and he's like kind of blacking out. And his friend's like, oh man, what's wrong? This goes on for another like 2 minutes of him looking around the crowd. And then of course we see his actual dad and his younger self in the crowd, like literally, as we saw them in the flashbacks. And it was so patronizing. I was like, do you think I have like marshmallows for brains? What did you think I thought was going on here? It was so literal. It was so like, let me hold your hand and let you know.
Right? We got that in the first, when we saw that little paperboy hat, like I was like, that reminds me.
Immediately.
They have the same stature, the same build. Like
It was insane to me to do that.
And then
like whose idea? Who was on set going? Wait, I'm not sure.
That and then double whammy, Faye.
Double whammy,
God
Faye.
Damn it!
Like
we
just
know he's freaking out right now.
Show a woman and a daughter, a man and a son. We get it. I promise you, we get it. We're not that stupid. I hate being like patronized. And it made it so unserious. Like it made it really hard for me to take it seriously.
I was thinking about why I was so frustrated by the scene, and I went back to the book because I was like, "What? How was this like talked about like in?" Because I remember his road trip to LA being very important. He describes this mental breakdown. I'm sure it's included in the movie because it was like when he realized he needed to get help.
Yeah,
and he can't pinpoint why he's feeling what he's feeling at that moment. I think vaguely the way he describes it is like he sees all of these people from different walks of life in this one little town, and they have this small tight-knit community, and there's a county fair, and they love their lives.
Low-key, the fair gets me emotional too.
It's beautiful.
There's
it's
something very nostalgic about it.
It's something so beautiful about people from your town coming together to have a little night out, and you do these really traditional things, and they're kind of like
kids drinking vodka on the beach.
And this childhood element, like you're like playing a game as like a 50-year-old like little. It's just a very beautiful gathering of community. He had none of that community.
He was so outside of it.
He was so outside of it. Yeah. And he saw all these people, and he just felt like a ghost, honestly. And he just freaked out.
He's fucking moving across the country
he's
when he has no
moving
business
to LA.
moving
He's a
across
Jersey
the country.
boy moving to LA.
He's such a Jersey boy. He wouldn't even move to New York City because it felt so foreign. He's going to LA. I still don't
quite understand why that move happened, but
he was just running.
Yeah.
He was just running away.
To get flashbacks of his dad and Faye, I was like, what do they have to do with this scene?
Yeah.
Like and maybe he
like
was
people he could have had that feeling with, but he didn't. But it was just so
maybe
fucking
they were an
stupid.
element, but that wasn't the only element. That scene made it seem like his depression stems from these two sources, like inability to form close relationships with women, and his dad and upbringing.
I literally will stand by. I don't think we needed any type of shit about his dad other than the initial flashback and the final scene we had with them, which we haven't gotten to yet.
I knew this film was going to be really hard to make because it's about something so ambiguous, which is like mental illness and depression. You can't just pinpoint. That's why people are in therapy for years. You can't just you can't do a flashback and say, oh yeah, he's freaking out because it stems from his dad. He had no idea what he was feeling then. He wasn't getting visions of his dad then. It would have been more compelling if you just saw Jeremy Allen White is so good at conveying distress. Yeah. And he could have done that. And then you could have seen how his friend helped him. And then there's that element of like brotherly, hey, I know you're going through something, but
it didn't even seem like his friend. It seemed like a random handler. Like they had no relationship. It was so weird. Yeah. Until he drops him off at the house. And then they have this moment where his friend looks kind of worried about him. And he's like, all right, Bruce. Like they hug each other by or something. And then he turns around to say something more. And he goes,
such a good way of putting it. That's what it felt like. You were just
First of all, I, for some reason, had like a premonition that he was going to call him Brucey. Like the way that the camera was looking at Jeremy Allen White kind of just like forlorn. And his his tight jeans and his little boots. I was like,
big ass brown colored contacts.
In my heart, I was like, that's Brucey. And his friend goes, Brucey. And then he does that thing that I hate in movies where he goes, and then just turns around and doesn't say anything.
I'm so glad you said that, and I forgot about that. But when it happened
egregious.
In the movie,
it was maybe the worst one ever.
That was actually for sure one of the worst ones ever because it wasn't. It was just.
It was so like.
He like gave the breath at.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's so predictable. It's so formulaic. That felt like AI almost. But I was really hoping, like the line I was hoping for him to say after Brucey, like what was in my head was, Brucey, you know you can always come home. And like that's so corny and cheesy, but like that hits me in the heart. Like, you know, when you do something really scary in life or you make a big change and you're not sure if you're doing the right thing, to have someone like stable in your life look at you and be like, hey, if this doesn't work out,
I love that.
You can change your mind.
Yep.
It's like just the most reassuring.
With all the corny ass lines in the movie, that would have been at least. Throw that in there.
And again, I was crying. Like this whole time.
I was crying. Absolutely. I was crying.
Because like it's a real person and it's a real story and
you see how much he's like, you really see it.
Yeah.
But
you can't help but feel really sad watching someone be depressed.
The thing. This is
I feel like also
story,
like having struggled with depression and like periods of like acute major depression, I like get triggered seeing it, and I do get so emotional because I'm just like, it's such a miserable thing that is so hard to explain.
Yes. Yeah.
And as soon as it's over, it doesn't make sense anymore. Like you look back on it as soon as it's over and you're like, what? Why was I like that? And then as soon as you're sad again, you're like, I don't think I've ever been happy before in my life. Like it feels so all consuming and then feels like so confusing from the outside. So like seeing someone in the thick of it is like definitely impactful.
That it felt like we never heard of depression. Even I understand like this is a movie that's like Depression 101. I 1000% understand that, but even still it just felt like no one's ever even seen it before.
Yeah. Because also, like, it's such a stereotype that you go to therapy and they're like, well, what was your relationship like with your parents? Of course, it's just true. Like, psychologically, your relationship with your parents affects everything in your life. But I think there's also, like, a common experience where you go to therapy and your therapist is asking you questions about stuff that you don't think matters. You're like, can we stop talking about my dad? Okay? Yeah. I'm stressed about work. And they're like,
actually, we might need it. Why are you stressed about work, though?
Yeah. It's like, well, I need them to love me. Yeah. Like, I really need this promotion because I have to feel loved. Like, I'm not talking about myself, but do you know what I mean? Where like your therapist's job is to point out like patterns that you don't see in yourself, because it is really hard to see that in yourself. Even if you're such a stereotype, like it's so hard to look at yourself and be like, yeah, I guess I am a middle child who wants more attention, you know? Yeah. And that's the point of therapy, is they redirect you when you're like, or at least that's my experience with therapy, where I'll be like, I just feel that I'm lazy and a bad person. They're like, why do you think that is? Yeah. So I agree with you that like having that from the outset cheapened it, because there was no growth. There was no realization. He was like kind of in stasis as a person.
It really frustrated me as Bruce as a person is so cool. He's so beloved for a reason. And I bet you even when he was in this like state of depression, he was probably funny and a great, like he was so much more than just depressed. Like people have multitudes. And I think sometimes when there's like biopics or any other, mostly biopics, honestly, they just assign a character to this very real person And Bruce is
They flattened it so much.
It was just, he was depressed. Like Bruce, when he's performing, is a storyteller. He's hilarious. Like he just, he's not just in this wave of depression all the time. And I thought there was a lot of room for,
especially
to
with
show
other
us
people.
little like real side to him that isn't just like depressed or working. Like, because other scenes were him just working.
You're so right that people who are depressed contain multitudes and like deal with it and like outwardly show it in so many different ways. It comes out as anger, it comes out as exhaustion, it comes out as like humor, it comes out as all these different things
At different times.
And it's not just moping.
No, and that's what the whole movie was. Bruce is known to give hope to people. Like all of his songs in some way, shape, or form, besides Nebraska, have some sort of like hope built in them or vindication. And I understand that's not the point of the album. I completely understand that.
No, but
but Born in the USA came from Nebraska. Like, give us something from that, or just show us what Bruce
the seed,
is besides
show us the
this
thread that led to Born in the USA.
Right? Like,
I really hated how abruptly the story ended after the album.
That's the other thing. I was like, what you just...
Because after the album drops, he goes to LA. Yeah. He has a mental breakdown. Yeah. On the way there, he has a mental breakdown in LA.
Yep.
His friend has dropped him off and said, "Brucey," and then left. And Bruce is kind of like suicidal at this point when he's in LA, and he calls John and he says something like, "I don't really want to be here anymore," something like that. That's like very much like suicidal ideation. And John is like, poor thing, so worried about Bruce, and he like basically begs him to get professional help. Finally, this whole movie I'm thinking like, this man's not equipped.
In real life, John flew out to LA to see him. Did they make it clear? I don't even know that happened. He flew out to see him. Like,
maybe. Because I do remember him on the phone saying, like, please just don't do anything until I get there.
I think,
where it's like, they're not explicitly saying it, but it's like this horrible moment where he's like kind of begging Bruce to hold on. Yeah. Until he gets there. Yeah. So I guess he does.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was a very intense moment. Like the visceral fear that John had, I don't wish that upon anyone, that feeling of like worrying about someone you love, that they're going to hurt themselves.
And
like,
they're so far away and all you have them on their line, like you don't want to hang up.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the 80s. It's not like you can stay on the phone the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
He does go to therapy. And we also had things to say about this, where he like basically walks into the therapist's office and sits down, and the therapist, you know, normal like intro stuff is like, you know, why don't you tell me as much or as little about what brought you here today? Cut to Bruce, and we get kind of a long, steady shot on him where Jeremy Allen White gives this like great performance in his face where he slowly like starts kind of like hyperventilating, then he just starts crying and breaks down and cries.
Yeah.
I thought that was very real, going to therapy, especially for someone like him. It would have been the first time, maybe ever, that he was like confronted in this way and told like, hey, I'm just here to listen. What's happening? Mm-hmm. And that is like it's like pulling out the dam and
I think you said it. It's like
open.
When you like are hurt or someone asks, "Are you okay?" and all you can do is cry.
Yeah, it's like you're keeping it together, and then someone goes, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And you're just like, "Oh, I didn't know."
Had to have been it.
But then it just cuts to 10 months later.
Yeah.
And so it was very much like he goes to therapy and then he's fine, you know?
Yeah, and it was like 10 months later, and then
he's on tour again.
And then he gets some sort of closure with his dad.
Yeah. His parents like go to his show, and then after in the hallway, his mom's like, your dad's in there, he wants to talk to you alone. And he goes into the room, and his dad is like sitting on a chair and pats his lap and says, really cute, Bruce, come here, come sit on my lap. And Bruce is like, what? Like, this is when he says, I'm 32 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And his dad's like, come on, just come sit on my lap. I did think it was cute.
It was really cute. It was like
cute. A very bizarre thing for him to do, but it is that like awkwardness of like trying to have this intimacy with someone who you should have had intimacy with emotionally your whole life, but you just didn't. Yeah. Like they've been in such close proximity forever. They are so important to each other, but they have never experienced this like face-to-face intimacy. Yeah. And so his dad has him come sit on his lap.
It's a little awkward, but like you still love that it was happening.
There's a thing of like, okay, just meet him in the middle. Yeah. Do his weird thing to see what he's going to say. Yeah, and so like beautiful. Bruce is like covered in sweat, and he's like, oh, okay. And he kind of like awkwardly like sits on his dad's lap. I don't know who says something first. I think his dad says like, I just wanted to tell you, Bruce, like, I'm really proud of you. I'm going to cry. God. I think he says, I'm just really proud of you. I think you've done it. You're a good man, you've done a great job. You've really taken care of your mother and I. You've been good to us. I'm proud of you. Basically, like everything that anybody just wants to hear from their parents as an adult.
He got
Hey,
redemption, like truly.
I'm proud of you. You're good. And I don't know if he says I'm sorry or apologizes, but it's kind of like you can't ask for too much from him at the end of the day. This is the best he can do.
That was so good, big. Yeah.
But Bruce is like very moved by it.
Yeah.
And he says, I've never sat on your lap before.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, really? And he's like, no. And I thought that was really sad because it's that thing of like, often when you like confront your parents as an adult about something from childhood, they're like, wait, I don't remember that.
when you're like two different memories.
Realities.
Like
two different perceptions.
His dad's probably like, you know what? He probably didn't even apologize because he probably didn't think he did anything wrong.
He doesn't know. Or he's not capable of like being honest with himself about everything he did wrong and then admitting it.
Yeah. And Bruce is just like, well, my reality is that like, no, I
was neglected. He was neglected.
Yeah.
But I think it's so true. Like a lot of people say with like a narcissistic parent, you'll be like, remember when we were little and you told me I was fat? and then your parents like, that never happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard. I think it's really hard in general, even if they're not abusive, for parents to like admit if they've done something wrong when raising their kids. It's hard being a parent. All parents make mistakes. And like, nobody wants to be told like you fucked up this human being. Mm-hmm. But I think this is like that extreme version where his dad's whole perception of reality of their relationship is that they were like a normal father and son. And Bruce's perception of that was like total emotional neglect and abuse. Mm-hmm. And it's like having that moment of like, you've never done this for me before, never treated me this way before. And then his dad being like, really? Mm-hmm. It's just that like fundamental, like, we're always going to have a different perception of this.
Yeah. And I think the fact that that movie ended just like that is just like, okay, so this movie was about Bruce and his dad.
Yes.
And because he had closure with his dad. And then we got just like like little cards of like Nebraska went on to be blah, 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 blah. I mean, his mom was in it for a little bit. He had a really important relationship with his mom. We got so much of his dad. I wish his mom got to even it out. I don't know. It's just like this movie was like 20% making Nebraska, 80% his dad.
I agree.
I don't think people's expectations were there though. I think that's why a lot of people are let down.
No, we were hoping for like a true like process.
This is how we were making the album. And I understand that part of it was about, again, like this part with his upbringing was really important. It was just way too heavy on that. And we just got none of like,
it really felt like they took like a beautiful sculpture and like smoothed it out really aggressively, like simplified it. It was like a pixelated image instead of like high res image. Like they just, I feel like whoever was in the decision making, and it's hard with like big movies like this, you always wonder like who is really creatively making big important decisions. Like was it the executive producer? Was it the writer? But it just feels like they kept having a conversation where they're like, it's too much going on. We need to focus it. We need to focus down on one thing. We need to focus. And it's like, no, because people aren't dumb.
Yeah.
Audiences are not dumb. And now it's incredibly repetitive.
Exactly. It felt like that's exactly what I felt like they were doing. It could have been a little bit more complex, but I think they're afraid of doing that as to like make the plot confusing. But
it was just boring. It was boring. It was repetitive.
Just, like this isn't a movie I would just like throw on TV.
Never.
Musician biopics are usually not great. But I think it's because people have a lot of high expectations for them.
Yeah.
And this one, I think it's just about Bruce at a very particular time in his life that isn't necessarily happy. So I don't really think it's going to lend itself to just like popular appeal, which is fine. But that's why I think it would have been better as a documentary because there's a lot of context there that the movie couldn't explain.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to try to be that heavy-handed with it, make a documentary. If you want to be theatrical and like leave it up to artistic interpretation, make a movie,
but make it a movie.
Make it a movie. You know when it thinks a movie like a movie. Like this didn't feel like a movie.
No, it felt like a CW TV show.
Yeah,
in season 5, trying to like explain all their previous plot holes.
One thing I've been thinking about is when we were talking about how they cut the end so quickly. Like I want to know what happened after Nebraska just a little bit more. Not like after like years after, but just like
the
after
impact
the
outside of Bruce.
Yeah, exactly. Like the impact outside of Bruce. And that you just didn't get a lot of that. I mean, I will say Bruce, I think 2 things come to mind. One was that I think in the movie, Jeremy Allen White portrayed him to be very humble and like, I don't care about fame. I don't care about fame. And yeah, like he is like very much, he keeps himself. He's so humble, but he does care about his fans.
Yeah.
He cares about his performances. I mean, performances are one way to gauge like audience interest. So by not doing a tour, he had no idea how this album was doing. And
almost like he was too sensitive, like too close to it to like get a reception.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to do a tour and press because he didn't want to explain it to people. He thought he was going to like F it up by explaining it to people.
Yeah.
He wanted everyone to have their own relationship with this album.
That's true. I do hate when people ask an artist, like, what's this song about? Like,
Yes.
it's a poem. You're
It's
supposed
just-
to read it.
Read it. And that's what, I mean, I think that made so, I made a lot of sense. I don't think they really clarified, I don't think they needed to clarify it, but I don't think that it came across as much that like the reasons why he didn't want to do tour, whatever. And I mean, also, I don't think I fully said this, but the reason why the record label was so like okay with it is because, I mean, at that time after that tour he just came off of, they had so much faith in him that he was Bruce Springsteen. He could essentially had a blank check to do whatever he wanted. Yeah. But he still cared about how he was doing, even if he didn't say he didn't care. He called John and he was like, he asked him, he was like, how's it doing? And I think it kind of pained him to ask, but
It's so vulnerable.
for sure he cared about how it was doing. He wanted to know how people received it and their own relationships with it. And it's such a timeless album because your relationship will change with it over time. It just will. He's never really fully explained the album.
Yeah.
He's explained like the influences, for sure, his like upbringing, all of that stuff. But like a lot of the songs are still up to interpretation. The second thing that came to mind with the book gets at, this author is just really good at explaining why something matters. He was saying that this album was released when I think like around Walkmans were released with cassette tapes.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really the first time you can be alone with music in your headphones. You weren't playing on a speaker with other people around you. Like it was just you and the album.
It's such a different
So you're
thing.
just like, you don't care. No one knows what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Like you don't care about anyone else around you. It's just you and the music. And so this album is the perfect
Wait, that's
album for a
blowing my
Walkman.
mind to think that like kids in the 60s and 70s weren't listening on headphones.
No, right? And that's why I think we miss with the movie.
blowing my mind,
When
yeah.
I first read that, I was like, I paused. I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, of course this album is so important when it was released, exactly when it was released,
Yes.
because of these technological advancements that were happening at the same time that allowed people to be alone
Oh,
with
I
it.
wish we could have seen that.
And they didn't have press tours to tell them how they were feeling about it, and they'd have a tour to see him perform it.
That's so interesting.
Like, it was just you and these recordings.
It's so cool because it's like, on the one hand, it was so intimate because he was literally in his bedroom recording it. But then on the receiving end, it also became more intimate because
Yeah.
then it's people alone listening to it.
And you
So
can
then
kind
it's
of
like
imagine
Bruce to
him,
fan
like,
directly.
if you close your eyes, you might, like, feel that he's in there with you, you
Yeah.
know? Like, it's so
Especially as
cool.
a big fan.
Yeah.
It's like meditative.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, I do feel robbed of that conversation. I also was thinking about like how much that changed, like you said, other artists being inspired or like seeing that it's
Yeah.
possible to do things kind of indie style.
Yeah.
I mean, think about today, how many people just make music in their bedrooms? There's kind of no excuse. Like, get a
There's
laptop,
no,
babe.
if you have a laptop, if you've got a GarageBand, if you
Even
have
if
a
you have an
guitar, iPhone, you got the like recording app, like you're fine. You're
now
good to
it's
go.
like the Wild West. I mean,
Exact-
bedroom pops was a whole, like during COVID, especially
it's a
like
genre.
Claro.
It's a genre. It's
Yeah.
pop- like what? It's so cool. The impact it's had on like DIY music. His songwriting too became way more accessible. Like he did it so interesting the way he told the stories of these characters, because he told story like this is a dark album. He's telling stories of criminals and literally murderers and also just like people that are down and out, but he's writing it from the first person perspective. So he's writing like
Right, they made a whole thing about when he was writing the lyrics to
oh my
Nebraska.
god, that scene actually well, I understand why it's
No,
important.
it was ridiculous.
I understand why it's important to know, like the context of knowing that these were all songs from his first like point of view, like important, but the way they did it.
Do you want to explain
No,
how they did
you're
it?
better explaining like plot
Okay, and
than
then you're
I
gonna
am.
say what you thought about it.
Yeah.
So they show us a scene where he's writing lyrics on a notepad. He's writing with like a fucking giant Sharpie so that we can see it, so that we can read it from the camera, which was like absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But he writes down like scribbles some lines to Nebraska, and it's all from with the pronouns like he, him about Starkweather.
yeah.
And then he like has this moment and he crosses it out and writes I and me, and
Yeah.
the way that they record it, like it's so suspenseful, like wait, what's he gonna write now, and it's cross me, and it was just like fucking
You
stupid.
read it, and then you get
dramatic.
it, and you're just like, oh, so he's the criminal.
He's identifying with this dark mind.
Damn.
Whoa.
And he also did that to like empathize with generally people that are bad. Like he is like, this album is a test in radical empathy. And like, can you really feel for this person? A quote that sticks out for me in the book is like, these are stories of people that are reacting and rejecting things that are like hurting them, you know? It's,
hurt people.
Yeah, kind of thing. And so it's like, that's what you're trying to empathize with. And so doing it in a first person point of view is allowing, because you're like, oh wait, Bruce is singing this.
Of
I like
course.
this guy.
It's a poetry
like
thing.
this
It's
guy.
a writing thing. Like,
so like, yes, maybe he did. Also, that song in particular was from the Charles Starkweather's The Serial Killer. He got inspiration from this movie that he saw in the dead of night. But what we don't really see in that, like they showed some of the movie. Yes, he took inspiration from that story. He did actually wind up like looking into it, researching it. He called like a radio station to talk to somebody who like reported on it. Like he was like, I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to dig into it.
he was just like,
I don't know. No, so this happened like 20 years prior.
Hyper-focusing.
He was like, this was literally, it was like hyperfixation, like depression. Like I gotta occupy myself with something.
Yeah.
So yes, the story itself was influential and like the meanness of it, but also the film itself and the way it was shot. When I was talking to Sarah about this, I was like, yeah, the film Badlands was influential. She was like, oh yeah, Terrence Malick's film. I was like, why do you know that?
That's so her.
Well, I know. She was like, oh, I just like read it one
Shout
time.
out Sarah when she
Shout out
listens to
Sarah.
this.
She just knows her cult films. Like it is a cult film. It's small. It didn't really make waves at the box office. Like it wasn't that crazy, but it's known to be the way this guy filmed this captures like the stillness of American life.
Maybe I should do an episode on it. I don't know it.
I mean, you should watch it, like for sure. I mean, I haven't seen it. I'm just like, watch it.
Well, we can watch it.
Which I actually do kind of want to watch it now. Like the way it's described is it just captures, he just does it it's also kind of a DIY-ish movie. I don't really know, but Bruce liked it so much because of literally the way it was filmed, not just the story.
I didn't get that.
But no, because they don't show that. They just show the serial killer. They don't show, he says, and I remember this from the book too, so much of his judgment of Nebraska was the light of Nebraska, because the light in the film was so important to him. And I don't know exactly what he means by light. Again, it's a vague concept, the light of the film.
Sure.
I haven't seen the film, so I can't quite.
No, that's like a thing that people talk about a movie.
He wanted to capture that in sound though. And I think that's why he was so persistent in the recording sessions to be like, that's not it. That's
so
not
interesting.
it. This is not capturing the light. This is not
I didn't get that
exactly
at all.
it. And because they didn't show any of the film. I don't know how you would do that, like realistically.
No, it's interesting because a lot of artists talk about having kind of like synesthesia of like having such important like visual ideas associated with the music that they record.
That's so interesting.
And like having different colors
that's probably
associated with it.
Like, yeah.
It's pretty common. Like I think Pharrell is known for having that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't know, Olivia Rodrigo has talked about it. It seems like very intuitive to me.
Yeah.
Of course, you like associate visuals with sound, but we totally could have seen that. I think the scene where he's watching the movie, we could have lingered way longer on that.
Right?
We could have gone in and seen particular shots of the movie and then looked at his face with the light of the TV on his face. There's so many ways we could have gotten a better understanding of that. My only takeaway was that he was like drawn to this like fucked up crime story.
That's exactly my takeaway. If I just isolated it in the movie, I was like, oh, he was hyper fixated on the serial killer and he related to him.
All right, so we're at 2.5 hours.
Damn.
I know.
That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy how the time flies? I told you were like, what are we gonna talk about?
That's crazy. And I feel like I was able to say like,
hopefully you said a lot of what you had. You're going to listen back and you're going to go, oh, I wish I said this. I forgot
no,
to
I
say
know.
that.
I was thinking literally when you were talking, I was like, I can't listen.
Okay, let's take a second, read through your note quickly, see if there's anything you like had down that you wanted to mention that you haven't gotten to mention. While you read your notes, I'm just going to give my little spiel. I don't know how you're listening to this episode.
Oh, sorry.
But no, just shut up while I'm talking. If you could, please. It's my podcast. Anyway, I don't know how you're listening to this episode, but I post full video episodes on YouTube. This one might be a fun one to actually watch visually because I'm with Nickie and we're like talking to each other, where normally it's just me in a room. But I also post clips on TikTok and Instagram, sometimes with like visual aids added in and like random TikToks with my thoughts on pop culture and stuff. And I post full audio episodes, hopefully wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, for free on Patreon, lots of other things. But if it's not on a podcast platform you use, you can also message me and I can add it. Give the video a like, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, or if you're listening, leave me a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps me out because I know I seem like so professional and like so successful, but I'm actually just a baby podcast.
This is professional.
So
we're
give
in
me
the
some
stew
love.
right
Show
now.
me some love.
I'm wearing a tie. I'm at work right now.
Facts.
I feel like it flowed really well.
Yeah, I think we're just good at talking to each other because we do it a lot. I think we have a lot of practice.
That's true. That's actually so true.
Was there anything else you wanted to share that your family said about the movie after when you guys went to get drinks?
They both rated it a 9 out of 10, which I'm not surprised about.
Who, your parents?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
I don't think...
On what? On IMDb or just like in your family group
just
chat?
in the conversation. I was
Okay.
like, what would you rate it? And
Okay.
they both said 9 out of 10.
I'm actually really glad that they loved it.
They really liked it.
I would have been disappointed for them.
I'm actually kind of slightly nervous for them if they ever listen to this to be like, why did you like it? But I actually think they'll understand where I'm coming from.
I don't think we were mean or
No,
harsh.
it was just like valid criticism.
What I always try to do is, I always try to explain why I feel a certain way about something. So if I say I think it was shallow, I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what I think would be better. And then if you disagree with me, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not just like rage baiting. I'm not just like shitting on something. And if you loved this movie, I'm not calling you stupid.
No.
I'm never doing that.
No. And if you watch this movie and you're like, I just can't unsee Jeremy Allen White. Yeah, I couldn't either.
I couldn't
I couldn't either.
It wasn't necessarily Bruce Springsteen to me.
wasn't.
It was this fictionalized like
It
character
wasn't. That's
based
why
on Bruce.
I feel like I keep saying
Documentary.
I'm referring.
Oh, there was something I wanted to say when you kept saying documentary.
what?
That's why you keep calling him Jeremy Allen
That's
White.
why I keep calling him Jeremy Allen White.
He
'cause I
was
can't-
very much Jeremy
He was
Allen
just Jeremy
White.
Allen White.
Actually, he was pretty Lip Gallagher in moments, I feel.
Yeah.
But about the documentary, I was wondering, like, isn't there so much archival footage of Bruce, too, like, from that era that they could have used?
So much.
It's not like it was so long ago that there's nothing.
So much.
We could have
There's
had
so
barely any
much.
talking heads, because, like, I don't love, like, talking heads in a documentary, like those side interviews
Yeah.
that much. But there would have been so much footage and so many opportunities to, like, voice over.
My Instagram feed recently has just been like young Springsteen videos because I'm like, they pop up and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch this
For sure.
because there's things I haven't seen and I keep watching because I'm like, oh my god, he was so electric when he was young, like things that we'll never understand, and I almost wanted our generation to see that. Like he's not 70, like this is Bruce Springsteen. He's not just he's not just electric on stage, but he's also just a really great musician. He's a great storyteller. He has amazing rapport with his bandmates.
I did want to see more of him being beloved. Like, there's a reason why people adore him.
They barely met. Well, okay, you know what? Nebraska is just him. So they didn't really go into the bandmates that much. So I understand that. But
you know
the
what?
recording session
Maybe-
scenes had so much potential for that.
I agree.
Of like, being with them.
Maybe Nebraska and this story should have been a documentary. And maybe if they did a movie, it should have been a different album or a different period in his career. How about that?
I think so.
Because I feel like this was made with the assumption of like, okay, you all know everything about Bruce.
Yes.
We're going to show you a side you don't know. And it's like, wait, I don't know everything about Bruce.
Yes, like it's the things where it's like when you see it, like the inspirations, when you see it, when you know it, it's kind of like, okay, I already knew that. But if you see it and you don't know it, you're just confused. You're like, why is this Flannery O'Connor book
It didn't
here?
work for
what
me.
What the hell
it
does
didn't
she
work
have to
for
do
you.
with this?
It didn't work on either side.
They just didn't give enough context to this actual song being written. Like they didn't play the song. Like so much of his
I couldn't believe how little we heard of the album. I couldn't believe it.
Like you can't understand why he's like this if you don't hear the album and vice versa.
I thought it was crazy.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being my first ever guest on
I'm
my
honored
podcast.
to be here.
I feel like, at the end of like late night shows or podcasts, they go, do you have anything to promote?
I have a Substack. I just started a Substack.
Substack.
I was going to write about this and I kind of want to use a Substack to like, maybe by the time you post this, I'll like just give not song recommendations, but I just want to do like a weekly music newsletter. Be like, not here's what I'm listening to, but I want to have like a theme to it, So by the time you listen to this, maybe I'll have that.
Give us the newsletter. I'll link Nickie's Substack.
Yeah.
Oh, no, what is it?
It's called Rumination Station.
I mean,
Kind of like a radio station.
who could be that clever?
Just rhyming.
If you think Nickie was smart on this podcast, wait till you hear her in writing in your email. Oh my God, Suki.
And she's like,
Suki knows we're wrapping up.
I have something to promote.
I swear to God, she speaks English because she knew I was just saying, all right, we're almost done. Suki, do you want to say anything to the people?
I think
we'll get that. All right, we're gonna stop it because I'm hungry too. Okay, bye. Thank you for listening. Can you wave? Bye.